Chapter 575. Hearing this, everyone, including Li Zhangtao, looked at each other. For a moment, they couldn't figure out Leng Shiqi's intention. It was reasonable to say that he was here to seize power, but he didn't even enter the gate of Dark Thunder Hall in Ningyan County. What power did he want to seize? Or was this Lu Xingji afraid and didn't dare to come? But thinking about it, it didn't seem right. He was someone who dared to kill the inspector. How could he not even dare to enter the gate of Dark Thunder Hall in Ningyan County? Li Zhangtao couldn't figure it out. He didn't know where Leng Shiqi had gone. He suddenly felt aggrieved. It was as if he had clenched his fist but ended up punching soft cotton. It was very uncomfortable. He had been an inspector in Ningyan County for 10 years and was used to holding everything in his hands. However, Leng Shiqi didn't play by the rules and escaped his control from the beginning. This made Li Zhangtao's plan fall through, making him feel very depressed. However, he immediately snorted and said, "Let the brothers watch him closely. I want to know his every move and see what he's planning." Anyway, Li Zhangtao was very confident in himself. He believed that in the face of absolute power, no matter what tricks Leng Shiqi played, he couldn't shake him. He just had to deal with all changes by sticking to the status quo. After leaving Ningyan City, Leng Shiqi went deep into the mountains and forests. Using the super detection ability of Byakugan, he easily got rid of the tail behind him. Then, the three of them went to the branch of the Blood-Clothed Pavilion in Ningyan County. The pavilion leader of this branch was called Chan Yi. When the three of them arrived, Chan Yi was shocked. Standing in front of him was the direct disciple of the pavilion leader, and two disciples of Wu Xiang, one of the 9 Hades blood-clothed assassins. Not to mention anything else, just their identities were not people he could afford to offend. "The three of you must have come from afar for something. Please speak," Chan Yi said politely. This time Leng Shiqi didn't speak. The one who spoke was Feng Shamo. He waved his hand and said, "Bring me all the information on the Dark Thunder Guards in Ningyan County." The reason why Leng Shiqi and the others came here was, of course, to obtain information on Li Zhangtao. In the Thunderfire dynasty, only the Blood-Clothed Pavilion could compare to the Dark Thunder Guards in terms of information. So he was sure that there would be information on the Blood-Clothed assassins, especially information that couldn't be revealed. As long as he could get information that was unfavorable to Li Zhangtao, it would be much easier to do things in the future. Although Chan Yi didn't know why Feng Shamo was doing this, he didn't ask and immediately went to instruct his subordinates. Not long after, a few blood-red assassins walked in with a few stacks of information. So much. This was what Leng Shiqi and the other two thought at the same time. They didn't hesitate and quickly scanned through the information. They wouldn't know if they didn't read it, but as soon as they read it, they realized that it was all about the Dark Thunder Guard's dark history of corruption. Looking at it carefully, there weren't many in the early years, but there were more in the later years. Especially in the last 2 years, the information was piled up like a mountain. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that it was too much to count. Why does our Blood-Clothed Pavilion have so much information on the Dark Thunder Guards? Leng Shiqi couldn't help but ask. Chan Yi was actually a little surprised because he had never paid attention to it. He couldn't explain, so he could only look at the people who brought the information. One of them said, "Sirs, we didn't collect this information on purpose. It's just that the Dark Thunder Guards have been too brazen in recent years. Many things are even out in the open. This information was only casually collected by our informants. If we dig deeper, there will be more." Hearing this, Leng Shiqi also felt that Li Zhangtao was getting more and more arrogant. As long as he, the Dark Thunder Guards, didn't investigate, who would dare to investigate such dirty things? This was simply embezzlement. However, this was definitely good news for Leng Shiqi. Although the information he had now couldn't be used as direct evidence, it would be enough to threaten Li Zhangtao if he collected a little. Li Zhangtao might not care about the evidence, but Leng Shiqi would at least have a reason to take action. Leng Shiqi took the information and asked, "Is there any more information on the Barren River tribe here?" "The Barren River tribe? I think I have some impression of it. It's a medium-sized tribe, equivalent to a second-rate sect." Chan Yi then added, "However, this tribe seems to have produced an incredible genius called Dichuan a few days ago. He later joined the Discipline Commission of the Thunderflame dynasty. Go and bring me all the information on the Barren River tribe. Lung Shiqi raised his eyebrows under the mask. How could there be such a coincidence in this world? The reason he asked about the Barren River tribe was because the location of the secret treasure recorded in the jade slip given to him by Zhuge Yin was near the Barren River tribe. He came to Ningyang County for two purposes. First, of course, was to help Eunuch Gao take back the supervision power of Ningyang County. Second, was to retrieve the secret treasure left behind by the Star tribe. He knew that Di Chuan came from a tribe in Ningyang County, but he never thought that Di Chuan was from the Barren River tribe. He had the Seal of Desolation and the Blood Shadow Sword. If the Barren River tribe saw them, there would be some trouble. But then again, this might not be a bad opportunity. He had just arrived at Ningyang County. It was impossible for the three of them to overthrow Li Zhangtao, the local tyrant. Originally, he wanted to use some of the blood-clothed assassins. However, it was inevitable that some traces and flaws would be exposed if he did so. The Barren River tribe was where Di Chuan came from. This gave him an idea. The Barren River tribe was located in the extreme north of Ningyang County, deep in the mountains. It was easy to defend and difficult to attack. The tribe looked a bit like a mountain village. The people inside were very old and simple, wearing clothes made of animal skin. The men were all very strong, and their bodies were more or less engraved with patterns of different colors and shapes. The Barren River tribe controlled a mineral vein nearby. Although they were not very rich and powerful, they were not weak either. However, the leader of the Barren River tribe, Hope, was not satisfied with this. All these years, he had been socializing with rogue cultivators and spirit cultivators. He wanted to take over their biggest enemy, the Wasteland tribe. Originally, the desolate Chuan tribe's power had indeed been slowly growing, but a few of the spirit cultivator sects that had received benefits from him had either perfunctorily done nothing, or had even gone back on their word and joined the Wasteland tribe. This made him furious. At this moment, Hope was venting his anger in his tent. His body was filled with a tyrannical aura. No one dared to approach him, and no one dared to dissuade him. This was because the Huangchuan tribe had ambushed one of his caravans yesterday and suffered heavy losses. When he finished venting, the tent was already in a mess. He looked at the servants huddled in the four corners and roared impatiently, "Get out!" Those people immediately ran out with their heads covered in dust. Hope picked up a jar of wine and drank it. However, at this moment, a strange figure suddenly appeared. "Why are you so angry, Leader Hope?" "Who is it?" Hopu exclaimed. This was the core of the Barren Chuan tribe, and he himself was at the peak of the gang spirit realm. Who could come to him without a sound? A figure wearing a black mask came out. "I'm here to help you." Chapter 576. Hope was tall, and his strong muscles were bulging with blue veins. He stared at the mysterious man who suddenly appeared. The spiritual force and qi and blood in his body were ready to burst out at any time. The mysterious man was Lung Shiqi. He said leisurely, "Chief Hope, please calm down. I'm here to make a deal with the Barren Chuan tribe." Hope was still vigilant, but he didn't summon the warriors of the tribe. Since the mysterious man could come to him quietly, his strength alone was enough for him to take him seriously. He said in a low voice, "You're not sincere enough to make a deal with me secretly." Lung Shiqi shook his head and said, "I have no choice. When the time is right, I'll be honest with you. But Chief Hope, you're wrong. I'm here with sincerity. Please look at this." Then he threw out a small sack. Judging from the shape and the blood oozing out of it, Hope knew that it must be a human head. Was this man here to deliver his head? With a light flick of his finger, the linen cloth was torn apart, revealing a bloody head. His expression immediately changed. The leader of the Golden Lion Gang, In Shou. The Golden Lion Gang was a third-class sect that he had given a lot of benefits to recently, but eventually turned to the Barren Chuan tribe. Although it was a third-class sect, In Shou, the head of the Golden Lion Gang, had broken through to the gang spirit realm 2 years ago. Now the Golden Lion Gang was thriving, and was very close to becoming a second-class sect. But now In Shou's head appeared here, and there was no panic on In Shou's face, which meant that he was beheaded in an instant. Hope thought that he could do it if he used all his strength, but it could only be done when In Shou was alone and unguarded. But how could it be possible? After all, Insho was the head of a gang. How could there be no one around him? The mysterious man in front of him could come here quietly, which meant that his concealment skill was superb. Being able to kill Insho in an instant meant that his strength was outstanding. Such a person was not someone he should take seriously. Moreover, Insho's death had indeed lessened the depression in his heart. He cupped his hands, but his movements seemed a little stiff. It seemed like he didn't do this action often. How should I address you? Hearing this, Lung Shiqi smiled in his heart. Just call me Mr. Liu. Hope frowned slightly. He was not even willing to reveal his name, which made him unhappy. He simply asked, "What is the deal that Mr. Liu is talking about? Just say it." "I can help you destroy the Wasteland tribe," Lung Shiqi said calmly. However, Hopu revealed a mocking smile and said, "Destroy the Wilderness tribe? Humph. Do you think that the Wasteland tribe is as useless as the Golden Lion Gang?" The Wilderness tribe had a long history. In its heyday, it was comparable to the current first-class sect. Even if it had declined, it still had 5 masters of Gang Spirit Realm, and more than 30 warriors of Spiritual Aperture Realm. How could it be destroyed? All these years, I've been trying to rope in other spirit cultivator forces and tribes. In fact, it's not that I have to destroy the Wasteland tribe, but that I don't want to be destroyed by them. Lung Shiqi turned a deaf ear and continued, "I only have one question. Leader Hope, do you want to destroy the Wasteland tribe?" Hope immediately paused, his eyes flashing with hatred. "Yes, of course I want to. But no buts." Lung Shiqi directly planned to destroy Hope. "As long as Leader Hope listens to my plan, destroying the Wasteland tribe is only a matter of time." "Listen to you? Why should I listen to you? What ability do you have to destroy the Wasteland tribe? Besides, why should I believe you? Maybe you were sent by the Wasteland tribe." Hope also sneered. If Lung Shiqi had not given him a certain shock at the beginning, he would have called for people to surround and kill Lung Shiqi. Suddenly, Hope saw a 9-colored light bloom in front of him. He instantly arrived in a 9-colored world. His eyes were blurred, as if he was intoxicated in this wonderful world. At the same time, a voice appeared in his heart. "Submit, submit to me." He actually had the urge to kneel down and submit, but his eyes suddenly widened. His whole body lit up with ancient spells, and he broke free from the 9-colored world. But at this time, a dark green sword had already been placed on his neck. Hopu was horrified. Although he had several ways to escape at this moment, if the other party had really attacked just now, he would have been injured at the very least. This mysterious Mr. Liu in front of him was actually so strong. Lung Shiqi withdrew the black jade sword and said, "Do you know if my ability can enter Leader Hope's eyes? Also, you can completely trust me, because I am a member of the Wasteland tribe." After saying that, he activated the mantra of desolation, and spells appeared on his body, almost the same as Hope's. If Lung Shiqi's strength shocked Hope, then his use of the mantra of desolation made Hope feel incredulous. The mantra of desolation was a high-level secret method of the Wasteland tribe. Only the talented clansmen were qualified to be baptized and cultivate this method. It was impossible for outsiders to successfully cultivate it. In other words, this Mr. Liu was really from the Wasteland tribe. But Hope was puzzled again. He knew all the clansmen who could cultivate the mantra of desolation, but when had there been such an expert? However, there were years of battles between the tribes. Every year, some warriors would die or their lives were unknown. Perhaps this person had once been wandering outside. Lung Shiqi did not explain too much. The more he explained, the more flaws he would reveal. It was best to let Hope's imagination fill in the gaps. He continued, "My identity is a little sensitive now, so it's inconvenient for me to show up. Next, I will help you rope in a few spirit cultivator sects to strengthen your forces. I will also help you secretly assassinate the higher-ups of the Wasteland tribe. In addition, I have a master comparable to the late stage of Gang Spirit Realm by my side. Destroying the Wasteland tribe is not an empty promise." Hope thought that if he could really rope in a few spirit cultivator sects, even if they were only third-rate sects, then he would have a great advantage in the number of people in the middle and low end. Judging from the power of Lung Shiqi's attack just now, it was very likely that he would succeed in assassinating the Wasteland tribe. In addition, he had a late-stage gang spirit realm helper. Under such circumstances, it was really possible to destroy the Wasteland tribe. Although Hope was already very tempted, he did not rush to agree. He still asked, since it's a business deal, what does Mr. Liu want from me first? After I help you destroy the Wasteland tribe, your forces will also increase greatly. In return, you have to help me kill some people. Lung Shiqi stated his purpose. Oh, Hope asked solemnly. If it was some difficult master, he would not agree so easily. Lung Shiqi only said 3 words, Dark Thunder Guards. Chapter 577. Hope's expression froze. You want to kill the Dark Thunder Guards? That's right, Lung Shiqi replied. He didn't think Hopu would agree so easily. But he didn't expect Hopu to suddenly burst out laughing. Ha 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 ha. That's great. Hopu's expression was fierce. I've long been annoyed by those bastards who only know how to squeeze us dry. I can't wait to swallow those bastards alive. Lung Shiqi's expression was calm, but he was secretly surprised. The Dark Thunder Guards under Li Zhangtao's leadership were hated by the local forces. It was obvious that they were often bullied. However, this was naturally a good thing for Lung Shiqi. He chuckled and said, since that's the case, does Chief Hopu agree to this deal? As long as you don't break your promise, I will definitely keep my promise. Okay, it's a deal. Lung Shiqi finally persuaded Hopu. He struck while the iron was hot and said, there's no time to lose. Let's carry out the first step of the plan and gather a few spirit cultivator sections. Chief Hopu, which forces have received benefits from you before? In fact, he already knew this from the blood clothing pavilion, but he still asked. At the mention of those sects, Hopu's face suddenly darkened. There's the Chun family of Blazing Sun City, the Water Cloud sect, and the Fallen Maple Sword sect. Of course, there's also the Golden Lion sect. Among these sects, only the Fallen Maple Sword sect was a second-rate sect. The others were all third-rate sections. Lung Shiqi pondered for a while and said, Chief Hopu, send a message to the Water Cloud sect. Tell them that you want to deal with the Fallen Maple Sword sect, and ask them to help. They definitely won't help. At most, they'll send a few people to deal with it. Hopu seemed to have already seen the outcome. Lung Shiqi said, that's not the point. If Chief Hopu trusts me, then do it. I don't dare to boast, but I can guarantee that at least 2 forces will submit to the Baron Chuan tribe. Submit. Hopu thought he had misheard. It was already good enough that he could win them over. How could they submit? However, since he has chosen to work with Lung Shiqi, I will trust him this time and see what else he can do. At this moment, in the Aqua Cloud sect, they all looked at each other after receiving Hopper's message. They had no idea what Hopper was up to this time. The Sword sect of Luofeng was a second-class sect. Its strength was not strong. There were only 2 masters in the gang spirit realm in the sect, but they were not much weaker than the Huangchuan tribe, who gave Hopu the confidence to make trouble for the Sword sect of Luofeng. The head of the Water Cloud sect, Shui Yuntian, was a benevolent-looking old man. His every movement gave off a refined feeling. He frowned and said, what kind of enmity does the Fallen Maple Sword sect have with the Baron Chuan tribe? Why is Hopu so anxious? Tell me, what should we do about this? One of the elders said, Sect leader, the Fallen Maple Sword sect is not weak. The Huangchuan tribe will not fight to the death with the Fallen Maple Sword sect. Once we make a move, it will be tantamount to offending the Sword sect. What should we do if they decide to settle the score later? That's not right. A person next to him immediately retorted. After all, we have taken a lot of benefits from the Huangchuan tribe. As the saying goes, we should not go too far. You are afraid of offending the Sword sect of Luofeng, but aren't you afraid of offending the Huangchuan tribe? You know, Hopper is very hot-tempered. Shui Yuntian thought for a moment and said, well, let's say that our Aqua Cloud sect has been busy with many things recently, and can't spare many people to help the Huangchuan tribe. We can only send 10 disciples in the spiritual pulse realm to him. It's settled. Although we have taken benefits from Hopper, we can't really charge into the enemy's line for him. Let's just deal with it casually. Hearing his words, the others didn't say anything more. Anyway, Shui Yuntian was thinking for the sect. They couldn't get too involved in the conflict between the Huangchuan tribe and the sword sect of Luofeng. It was enough to send a few people to wave flags and shout battle cries. In the Huangchuan tribe, Hopper received the reply from the Aqua Cloud sect. He snorted and said, "Mr. Lucy? It's just as I expected." Leng Shiqi also sneered. "Chief Hopper, let's go." Where are we going?" Hopper was puzzled. Leng Shiqi's eyes revealed a shocking killing intent. To kill. Hopper seemed to have thought of something. He was shocked, but he didn't say anything. Instead, he immediately went to gather the experts in the tribe. In the Aqua Cloud sect, Shui Yuntian was still drinking tea and playing chess with a few elders. They were chatting about everything under the sun. At this moment, a disciple ran over in a panic. Shui Yuntian and the others were displeased. Shui Yuntian said angrily, "How can you be so flustered? Have you forgotten the rules of the sect?" That disciple hurriedly said, "Sect master, elders, bad news. Hopper has brought a large number of experts from the Huangchuan tribe to attack us." Shui Yuntian's hand trembled, and the teacup fell to the ground and shattered. Didn't the Huangchuan tribe go looking for trouble with the sword sect of Luofeng? Why were they attacking the Aqua Cloud sect? However, since they were already here, Shui Yuntian didn't have time to think about it. He hurriedly led everyone to the mountain gate. At this time, many disciples of the Aqua Cloud sect gathered together with pale faces, because the Huangchuan tribe had more than twice as many people as them. Moreover, the number of experts in the celestial realm far exceeded that of the Aqua Cloud sect. Even Hopper, the chief, and the second chief, who was in the late stage of Gang Spirit realm, were here. With such strength, it would be a piece of cake for them to destroy the Aqua Cloud sect. Those disciples of the Aqua Cloud sect didn't even have the intention to resist. They were only thinking about how to escape. Shui Yuntian came over and was startled by the scene. His heart suddenly skipped a beat, and he secretly thought that Hopper didn't come with good intentions today. He cupped his fists and said, "What can I do for you, Chief Hopper?" However, it wasn't Hopper who answered him, but the mysterious masked man next to him. He said coldly, "Today, we're here to ask for an explanation from the Aqua Cloud sect." Shui Yuntian didn't recognize Leng Shiqi, and he was also very confused. Who was this man? Why did Hopper, who was always hot-tempered, regard him as his leader? However, he couldn't care less. He asked back, "What are you talking about? Our Aqua Cloud sect has never done anything wrong to the Huangchuan tribe. Let me ask you, have you already surrendered to the Huangchuan tribe?" Leng Shiqi asked harshly. Shui Yuntian opened his mouth and didn't know how to answer for a moment. It was true that he had received benefits from the Huangchuan tribe, but he hadn't surrendered to them yet. However, in front of these aggressive people, he didn't dare to say no. He was thoughtful and said carefully, "The Aqua Cloud sect won't surrender to anyone. We're just cooperating with the Huangchuan tribe." Leng Shiqi said coldly, "Good cooperation. Then why are you only willing to send 10 disciples in the spiritual pulse realm when Chief Hopper asked you to send people to deal with the fallen Maple sect? Is this your sincerity?" Shui Yuntian said perfunctorily, "That's because our disciples do have some trivial matters to attend to. We really don't have extra people." "Is that so?" Leng Shiqi glanced at the disciples of the Aqua Cloud cult standing behind the mountain gate. There were about 100 or 200 of them. "Then send everyone standing here over. If you don't want to, you can come over in person." Shui Yuntian's expression immediately darkened. "Are you trying to force us to do something we don't want to? Don't tell me you don't care about the rules between spirit cultivator sects?" Leng Shiqi's eyes were full of malice. "Rules. Rules are rules. If you take someone's money, you have to help them. You've received benefits, but you don't want to do anything. How can there be such a good thing in the world? Today, I'll teach you another rule, and that's the law of the jungle." Hopper understood and stepped forward. He waved his hand and shouted, "Don't leave a single one alive." The Huangchuan tribe's warriors all shouted, and patterns of different colors lit up on their bodies. For a moment, the sound of battle shook the heavens. These warriors had grown up in battle. Whether it was their fighting strength or their aura, they were incomparable to the Aqua Cloud sect's disciples. In a single charge, 30% of the Aqua Cloud sect's disciples were killed. Shui Yuntian finally turned pale with fright. However, he didn't have time to care about others because Leng Shiqi was already charging at him. Chapter 578. In less than an hour, the entire Aqua Cloud sect had turned into a river of blood. All the disciples had been killed. Meanwhile, the Huangchuan tribe barely suffered any casualties. Hopu stood in the pool of blood, his heart filled with excitement. It wasn't the first time that the Aqua Cloud sect had brushed him off. He had also thought about destroying the Aqua Cloud sect, but he couldn't do that easily. Otherwise, the Huangchuan tribe would become a thorn in the side of the Spirit Cultivator sect. Forget about trying to rope them in. They might even become enemies. So after a while of excitement, Hopu frowned. Mr. Liu, destroying the Aqua Cloud sect is easy, but what should we do after that? We'll definitely become the target of public criticism. Who knows, the Discipline Commission might even come looking for us. Don't worry, Chief Hopu. Leng Shiqi, however, shook his head indifferently. You just need to get someone to spread word of what happened today, and let everyone know that you had a good reason to attack, and that the Aqua Cloud sect reaped what they sowed. That way, even if they're unwilling, they won't have a reason to cause trouble for the Huangchuan tribe. Besides, the Aqua Cloud sect has already been destroyed. Even if they come to seek justice, what can they gain apart from provoking the Huangchuan tribe? Only fools would do something that doesn't benefit them and will offend others. So Chief Hopu, don't worry. Hopu thought about it and felt that it made sense. Since it was already done, it was too late to regret it now. He immediately had his subordinates plunder the Aqua Cloud sect's resources and bring them back to the tribe. There were many large and small factions in Tranquil Sun County, and they often had conflicts over resources. However, the Thunderblaze dynasty had many experts in every city, and there was even a combat army stationed here, eyeing them covetously. Coupled with the deterrence of the Discipline Commission, Tranquil Sun County seemed relatively peaceful. So the destruction of the Aqua Cloud sect today was a major event that shocked Tranquil Sun County. All the factions were discussing it behind their backs. In Dark Thunder manner, Li Zhangtao naturally found out about this very quickly. He said sarcastically, the Aqua Cloud sect was only perfunctorily dealt with the Huangchuan tribe a few times before being destroyed. This Hopu is too overbearing. Lordly, I've also heard of Hopu. He's known far and wide for his fiery temper. I think the Water Cloud sect has really pissed him off this time. But there hasn't been a massacre in Ningyang County for several years. Should we investigate it? Li Zhangtao sneered. What's there to investigate? In any case, the Barren River tribe gives us a lot of offerings every year, and besides, this matter should be handled by the Discipline Commission. It has nothing to do with us. By the way, how is Lu Xingji doing recently? Where is he now? As soon as he said this, the people below all laughed dryly. How could Li Zhangtao not know their morals? He frowned and asked, what happened? Sir, that Lu Xingji has gone missing. One of them mustered up his courage and said. Pa. Li Zhangtao suddenly slammed the table and said angrily. What? Missing? How can you lose track of such a big person? Well, I have my own difficulties. Lu Xingji and the other two are in the gang's spirit realm, and the other is in the late stage of the spiritual aperture realm. They are so fast. How can my men keep up with them? Then why didn't you tell me earlier? Li Zhangtao was also angry. These men might have been idle for too long. It was time to teach them a lesson. Go mobilize all the men of the Dark Thunder Mansion in Ningyang County. Spread the net, and find Lu Xingji for me. If I still don't know where he is in 2 days, humph. At the end of his words, there was a fierce look in his eyes, which made those men tremble in their hearts. This time Li Zhangtao was really angry. They immediately took the order and went to do it. Li Zhangtao suddenly let out a deep sigh. Right now, even he felt that the Ansha Dark Lightning Guards under his command were rotten to the point of rotting. Leng Shiqi's sudden appearance and disappearance were completely out of his control, which made him feel uneasy deep in his heart. Now Leng Shiqi and Hopu had returned to the Barren River tribe. They brought back a lot of resources, which made the disciples of the tribe very happy. Leng Shiqi, the mysterious man, also won some trust and status. At this moment, Hopu and the other 3 leaders were discussing with Leng Shiqi in the tent. Mr. Liu, what should we do next? Lung Shiqi shook his head secretly. No wonder Hopu had worked so hard for so long without any substantial results. It turned out that there was no one in the Barren River tribe who could come up with a plan, including Hopu. Perhaps this was the price of the super fighting strength of these tribes. He said, "The next step is very simple. We just need to repeat the method to deal with the Water Cloud sect. Send someone to inform the Chun family in Scorching Sun City, and ask them to send people to deal with the sword sect of the Fallen Maple." Hopu finally understood. This was really a vicious plot. If the Chun family helped, they would offend the Fallen Maple sword sect. If they didn't, then the Chun family would suffer the same fate as the Water Cloud sect today. "Okay, I'll send someone to Blazing Sun City right away." Hopu immediately went to make the arrangements, but Lung Shiqi stopped him again. Lung Shiqi said, "This time we'll catch the Chun family off guard." When the news of the Barren River tribe reached the Chun family of Blazing Sun City, the higher-ups of the Chun family were all worried. They knew very well how the Water Cloud sect was destroyed. Now the Huangchuan tribe was using the same excuse to blame the Chun family. The key was how should they reply to Hopu now. If they really helped the Barren River tribe, then they would become enemies with the Fallen Maple Sword sect. However, if they didn't agree, the blood of the Water Cloud sect was still flowing. They didn't want to become the second Water Cloud sect. The patriarch of the Chun family, Chun Chuling, sighed and said, "Everyone, let's think of something." The elders immediately began to speak one after another. "I think it's better to give in. Even if we completely offend the Fallen Maple Sword sect, it's still better than being wiped out. If we give in this time, it'll be equivalent to surrendering to the Barren River tribe. How can the Chun family raise our heads in front of others in the future?" "That's right, patriarch. I'm not willing to surrender to those barbarians either. Why don't we send a few people to deal with them?" "You're too naive." The Water Cloud sect had the same plan back then. In the end, the Water Cloud sect no longer exists in this world. If there's no other way, we'll surrender to other forces and ask for protection. Or we can ask the Discipline Commission to mediate. However, just as they were arguing endlessly and hadn't come up with a solution, a loud noise came from outside the Chun family. A rough voice resounded through the sky. "Chun Chuling, come out and accept your death." The expressions of the Chun family members changed drastically. They had just received the message. Why was Hopu here already? However, when they arrived at the gate of the Chun family, they were all stunned. Hopu wasn't the only one who came. There were also thousands of elite warriors of the Barren River tribe. Chapter 579. Seeing this, Chun Chuling had a bad feeling. But Hapa had sent someone to deliver the message, and now he was here. He didn't even have a chance to catch his breath. Until now, he still didn't know what to do. His heart was as anxious as ants on a hot pan, but he was still the head of the family. He forced himself to look calm and said, "Chief Hopper, we were just discussing how to help you attack the Fallen Maple Sword sect. I didn't expect Chief Hopper to come so quickly." This time it was Hopu who spoke, and Lung Shiqi stood behind him. It was not that he didn't want to show off, but the Chens were built near Scorching Sun City, and there were some people around. At this time many people had gathered, so it was inconvenient for him to show up. Fortunately, he had told Hopu what to do before he came. At this time, Hopu shouted at the top of his voice, "There's no need to discuss. In order to save time, you can gather all your men. We'll set off for the Fallen Maple Sword sect together. I'll only give you an hour." Hearing this, Chun Chuling panicked. Not only him, but all the members of the Chens who heard this were panicking. He hurriedly said, "Chief Hopu, don't worry." "Enough." Hopu interrupted Chun Chuling. "I'm not here to listen to your nonsense. You've received so many benefits from me, so you should do your best for me. This time, the Fallen Maple Sword sect will be led by your Chens." "Impossible." Chun Chuling shouted subconsciously, but he immediately realized that he had misspoken. As expected, Hopu sneered. "Since you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit, then pay with your life. Kill." With the word kill, thousands of soldiers roared and rushed out crazily. Lung Shiqi also fixed his eyes on Chun Chuling. He wanted to test out his current strength, but last time at the Water Cloud sect, that Shui Yuntian was too weak, and he killed him in 2 moves. Now Chen Chuling was at the early stage of Gang spirit realm, just like him, so he could use him as a test stone. Lung Shiqi waved his arms, and hundreds of shining starlight and red and blue sword qi appeared in the air in an instant. The heavenly cycle star god technique that he cultivated had an accompanying spiritual skill called Starlight Sword Aura. This spiritual skill was only a level 4 spiritual skill, and was not considered very powerful. However, the Starlight Sword Qi had a very good characteristic, and that was its extreme speed. Lung Shiqi's Sanju Sword Qi was integrated a long time ago. Even for him who was in Gang spirit realm, he could not keep up with it. Therefore, he integrated the Starlight Sword Qi into the Sanju Sword Qi during his closed-door training for 2 months. It was the Star Extinction Sword Qi. The current Star Extinction Sword Qi might not be too powerful, but it had the advantage of quantity and speed. Hundreds of sword qis of Star Extinction shot out like a meteor shower, instantly enveloping Chen Chuling. Chen Chuling did not know where this spirit cultivator of the spirit astral realm came from in the Huangchuan tribe. His strength was so strong that when he saw the sword qi that filled the sky, he actually felt that he could not resist it. He hurriedly pulled out a heavy sword, and the heavy thick earth spiritual gang burst out, dispersing a small part of the Star of Extinction sword qi. At the same time, seeing that Hopa didn't intend to attack, he also had a trace of luck in his heart. As long as I can stop this person for a moment, I may be able to escape. However, what he didn't notice was that a dozen shining stars quietly appeared in the sword qi of Extinction sword qi. Those stars trembled and suddenly shot out starlight chains from them. With a few swishing sounds, Chen Chuling's whole body was tightly bound by the starlight chains, and even the spiritual sword in his hand was blocked. 6th level spiritual magic skill, Celestial Star Lock. This was a relatively special spiritual magic skill. The Celestial Star Lock did not have actual damage, but the binding ability of the Celestial Star Lock was extremely strong. Even Chen Chuling, a master of Gang spirit realm, could not move after being trapped. Chen Chuling realized that he was about to die after just 2 moves. He panicked and immediately shouted, "Stop fighting. The Chen family is willing to submit to the Baranchuan tribe. We will be loyal to them for generations to come. We will never complain." Hopa's expression changed when he heard this. He seemed to be a little tempted. However, Lung Shiqi pointed at Chen Chuling, and a finger strength as fast as thunder and meteor pierced through the sky, directly penetrating Chen Chuling's lower abdomen. Chen Chuling originally thought that he was going to die, but when he discovered that the finger energy didn't hit his vital points, his whole body instantly broke out in a layer of cold sweat. He thought that the other party was teaching him a lesson, and didn't want to take his life. However, the next moment, a horrible energy suddenly exploded in his body, and Chen Chuling's flesh and blood flew everywhere. This was Lung Shiqi's 5th level spiritual skill, Star-Breaking Finger, which was integrated into the thunder-shocking Blood Sky Finger. It not only had stronger penetrating power and faster speed, but also could explode the concentrated Evil Blood Force, Thunder-Shocking Force, and Star Force after hitting the enemy, which was amazing. When Lung Shiqi was still in the elite club, he had to try his best to kill a master at the early stage of Gang spirit realm. But now he could kill him with a flip of his hand. First of all, after practicing the supreme method of Heavenly Star technique, he integrated his own methods of various attributes into it. The spiritual power in his body could be compared with the middle and late stages of Gang spirit realm. Moreover, he opened up all the spiritual meridians and spiritual cavities in his body, and even he did not know how strong the power was. On top of that, his physical strength and mental strength were extremely strong, which complemented his spiritual power. In this way, the early stage of Gang spirit realm was nothing in front of him. Lung Shiqi did not move, but killed Chen Chuling, who was at the early stage of Gang spirit realm, in 3 moves, which shocked Hopu. If he were to personally go up and use all of his strength to kill Chen Chuling, perhaps it would only take him a few moves. But Lung Shiqi had done it so easily, with just a wave of his hand. Hope admitted that he couldn't do it. After Chen Chuling died, the Chens had no chance to resist, and could only be slaughtered by the warriors of the Huangchuan tribe. There were quite a few people gathered near the Chen family. When they saw this bloody scene, they were all terrified. Some of the more timid ones began to tremble, while others turned around and ran away. Therefore, the news of the Huangchuan tribe exterminating the Chun family spread like wildfire. Everyone who heard the news thought that Hopu had lost his mind. However, many people were afraid of the Huangchuan tribe. They were not afraid of how strong other forces were. But they were afraid of the Huangchuan tribe, which was a mad dog that would seek revenge for the smallest grievance. Hopu walked on the ground covered with corpses, and he began to enjoy this feeling. All his recent suffocation could be said to have been vented. How delightful! He said to Leng Shiqi, "Mr. Liu, tell me what to do next, and I'll do it." Leng Shiqi chuckled and said, "The next step is simple. We destroyed 2 third-rate sects in a row, and others have seen the determination and ruthlessness of the Huangchuan tribe. Leader Hopu, as long as you go to those sects who have received benefits from you or want to join forces with the Huangchuan tribe, they will most likely choose to join forces with you." In fact, it was true. Not to mention the entire Ningyan County. Even the sects around the Huangchuan tribe were scared by Hopu. As long as he went there, those sects would immediately agree to cooperate with him and send him a large number of masters on the spot. In a few days, the Huangchuan tribe had gathered 4 third-rate sects, and there were more than 10 people in the Spirit Aperture realm who could help. Although the fallen Maple Sword sect would not join them, they agreed to lend Hopu 2 masters in the Spirit Aperture realm. This kind of combat power had completely surpassed Hopu's old rival, the Huangchuan tribe. On this day, Hopu returned to the tribe happily. Leng Shiqi said, "It's time to start the second step of the plan." Chapter 580. Hope's rival, the Wilderness tribe, was also very famous in Ningyan County because there were 5 gang spirit realm experts in the tribe. Coupled with the tribe's inherited secret method, they were so powerful that sometimes they even dared to fight with the first-class forces. The Wilderness tribe also controlled 2 valuable mineral veins, which were also very rich. On this day, a caravan of the Wilderness tribe walked into a dense forest. This caravan was not weak. The leader was the second leader of the Wilderness tribe, Cook, who was at the 7th level of gang spirit realm. His physique was not very tall and muscular. There was an exquisite emerald gem on his forehead. This was a unique feature of the Huangchuan tribe. Only those at the 4 realms of celestial being were qualified to wear it. The higher their cultivation, the larger and more exquisite the gem. This thing was not only a decoration and a symbol of identity, but also the source of the Wilderness tribe's inherited power. In addition to Cook, there were 5 Spirit Aperture realm experts and 20 to 30 Spiritual Pulse realm experts in the caravan. The rest of the escorts were also in the Spirit Transformation realm, which showed that this batch of goods must be very precious and important. Cook was very confident. With the strength of his caravan, unless there were several gang spirit realm experts or oneness of heaven, he did not think that anyone could threaten him. However, suddenly, the ground of the caravan lit up with countless flames, and a huge array suddenly appeared. 9 huge golden fire pillars soared into the sky and dyed the sky red. There seemed to be a dragon's roar as the flames burst out. The dragon's flame lit up the world and burned everything. Before the caravan could react, the dragon's flame had mercilessly devoured 60 to 70% of the spirit cultivators. This was the horror of a spirit cultivator. If he arranged the array in advance, he could create a terrible power in an instant. Only then did Cook react. He saw that the gem on his forehead was emitting a mysterious green light. As long as the light came into contact with the flames, it would disperse them. The same was true for the rest of the people. Finally, they managed to block the 9 palace fire formation, supported by the pure gold earth dragon flame. But Cook knew that this was just a temporary measure. They would not be able to hold on for long. He immediately shouted, "Who dares to sneak attack my Wilderness tribe?" However, the answer to him was 2 blood-colored saber auras that were more than 100 feet long. For a moment, blood chi soared to the heavens as the astral blade tore through the sky. However, the target of the astral blade was not Cook, but the Spirit Aperture realm and Spirit Pulse realm warriors behind him. How could those people withstand this ferocious blood-colored saber aura? They didn't even have the chance to escape before they were torn into pieces by the saber aura. After a few blinks of an eye, only Cook was left of the caravan that originally had over 100 people. Cook also had a bad feeling. He could also see that the other party wanted to catch them all in one fell swoop, not leaving a single one alive. Sadly, until now, he hadn't even seen the shadow of the enemy. The next moment, layers of crimson ice crystals scattered like snowflakes, condensing into an ice crystal cage around them. Cook's heart sank again. This was equivalent to cutting off his escape route. At this moment, two blood-red figures suddenly appeared. They were both wearing blood-red robes with mysterious golden patterns embroidered on their sleeves and collars, symbolizing their identities. A golden-striped blood-clothed assassin from the blood-clothed pavilion. Cook blurted out in horror. No wonder the other party had such horrible strength. However, he was more confused. Who could hire two golden-striped blood-red killers to kill him? The two were naturally Lung Shiqi and Feng Sharmo. Since they were going to deal with the wilderness tribe, of course, they had to weaken their strength. This time, Cook brought a large number of masters to escort the caravan, which gave them a good opportunity. As long as they could kill all of Cook's people, the wilderness tribe would lose a quarter of its combat power. Facing the two golden-striped blood-red clothed assassins, Cook was also scared witless, especially the Nine Palace Fire formation. It was still burning at this moment. Now that the surroundings were blocked, he had no way out. He had to shout, "You too, although I don't know who hired you. I'm willing to pay twice no, 10 times the reward, just let me live." Lung Shiqi ignored Cook, who was still surrounded by the Nine Palace Fire formation, and had lost his courage. Even though he was at the 7th level of Gang Spirit Realm, he was no longer a threat. He turned his head and said, "Senior Brother Feng, let's make it quick." Feng Sharmo did not speak. He reached out and a gray long saber with wind patterns appeared in his hand. As soon as the saber appeared, the surrounding spiritual power of heaven and earth stagnated. Lung Shiqi's eyes widened slightly. This saber was a 7th level precious weapon, Sky-Hating Gale Saber. He could only say that the Pavilion Master's prototype was indeed different. A 7th level precious weapon, let alone a Gang Spirit Realm Master. Even a great master in the oneness of heaven and men realm could only have a few 7th level precious weapons. Naturally, Cook recognized the 7th level precious weapon at a glance. His heart was filled with despair. However, he was a master in the late stage of Gang Spirit Realm after all. He knew there was no other way but to risk his life at this time. The gem on his forehead suddenly burst, and rich green light poured into his body, forming mysterious green patterns on the surface of his body. Feng Sharmo moved even faster. He raised his saber and slashed down. In an instant, an illusory wind saber more than 100 meters long chopped down, which was about to cut off the heaven and earth. In the face of this destructive saber, Cook roared, and the shadow of a giant beast from ancient times seemed to appear behind him. Unfortunately, just as he was about to break out and risk his life, Lung Shiqi made a gesture with one hand, and his whole body suddenly bloomed with endless 9-colored light, as if weaving a wonderful dreamland. The 6th level illusion flowing light illusion skill. Cook's eyes were absent-minded. In his eyes, there was only a dreamlike 9-colored world, which intoxicated him. The giant beast's shadow behind him also dissipated. At the same time, Feng Sharmo's saber had already chopped down. Strangely, although Cook was absent-minded for a moment, when the saber approached him, the green patterns on his body automatically flew out and entangled the illusory wind saber. Those green rays of light looked very weak, but they were extremely tough. They actually blocked the saber. Feng Sharmo snorted coldly. With one side of his saber, the shocking saber intent caused the wind to surge and the heaven and earth to shake. The illusory wind saber suddenly exploded, and countless sharp saber auras wreaked havoc, directly cutting Cook into pieces. This was Feng Sharmo's true strength. Perhaps it was because he had disguised himself as a Dark Thunder Guard for a long time, and had held back for a long time, but Feng Sharmo fought to his heart's content, and Lung Shiqi became his assistant. However, Lung Shiqi did not care. As long as he could destroy this caravan, it was fine. He then kept the huge amount of precious ores in his pocket. If he sold all of these things, he would be able to get more than 700,000 to 800,000 spirit stones. Other than that, there were also many mustard seed bags and bracelets from spirit cultivators. Added together, it was a huge fortune. Feng Sharmo did not care about these resources. He walked over and said, "The next step should be to attack the Wasteland tribe. From now on, you can be considered to have Hopu's Wasteland tribe as your foundation. You will have the confidence to deal with Li Zhangtao. It is indeed a good plan." Leng Shiqi also nodded. It was rare to be praised by Feng Sharmo. However, Leng Shiqi had other plans. Just as he was about to talk about the follow-up plan, a notification suddenly appeared in front of his eyes. "Congratulations, host, the system has been successfully upgraded. Please take a look." Chapter 581. Leng Shiqi was also a little surprised to see this message. He didn't expect that 100 days had passed so quickly. He did a rough calculation and found that it was almost the same. He broke through to the Gang Spirit realm in the Zhuge family's territory. Since the system was upgraded, he couldn't use the skill Fate, so it took him more than a month to return to the imperial capital from Shantai County, and then to Ningyang County from the imperial capital. Excluding the 2 months he spent in closed-door training, it should be 100 days now. Now that the system was upgraded, he had to study it. But his next plan was to attack the Wilderness tribe with hope before the news of the death of Kuk and others was sent back. But the system had been reactivated, which meant that he could use the skill Fate to teleport. So it didn't matter if he wasted some time. He immediately split up with Feng Sha-Mo. Feng Sha-Mo went to inform Hopu to release his men, and split them into 2 groups. One group was to ambush near the Wasteland tribe. The other group only had a few people, but they must all be masters of the Gang Spirit realm. These people came here to wait for the big fish to take the bait. Leng Shiqi found a hidden place to set up inhibition, and began to study the changes of the system. He first opened his information. Name, Leng Shiqi Lu Xingji Cultivation. Level 1 of the Gang Spirit Realm status. Peak Bloodline, Dark Shadow Clan, Star Clan Management Authority, 49. 99% System Energy, 50% Cultivation Method. Special Cultivation Method, Wild Demon Blood Beast Body Sovereign Cultivation Technique. Heavenly Cycle Star God Technique Spiritual Technique. 6th Level Spiritual Technique. Heavenly Star Lock 6th Level Spiritual Technique. 5 Gods Illusion 6th Level Spiritual Technique. Flowing Light Illusion Special Spiritual Technique. Starfall Technique System Coin. 300. The information interface didn't change much, but his system authority became 49. 99%, which was only a little bit more than half of the control. This also showed that the consciousness of the system still existed. But he was confident that as long as he killed one more time, he could seize the absolute control of the system. He checked all the subsidiary systems one by one. The system space had expanded a lot, so he didn't have to worry about the storage capacity anymore. The items in the system store had expanded to dozens. What was worth mentioning was that he could get a 20% discount when buying things in the system store. Perhaps this was the benefit of having a high level of system authority. He looked at the dazzling array of goods and was tempted. Unfortunately, he couldn't bear to look at the system coins he had now. When Leng Shiqi thought of this, he sold all the resources he had obtained from the Western Desert Province, and the resources he had obtained from destroying the 2 third-rate sects to the system. Not only did he obtain more than 5,000 system coins, but the strange energy had also appeared in his body. However, the energy still disappeared in a flash. He did not know where it went, nor did he know how to mobilize it. Now that he had the system coins, he didn't immediately buy anything. Instead, he continued to check if there were any changes in the other subsidiary systems. He opened the pet system and found that in addition to the original pet summon, pet bind, and pet upgrade, there were also options for pet enhancement and pet advancement. What surprised him even more was that he had an extra pet space. This meant that he could bring another pet with him. The Goo King's ability and the help it gave him was so great that he felt the great benefits of having a pet. He had always been glad that he had chosen the pet system. The Goo King had absorbed a lot of energy in the dragon vein, and was still in the process of advancing. Therefore, he could summon another pet to use first. Thinking of advancement, he looked at the option of pet advancement. He put the Goo King into the pet space and clicked on pet advancement. Sure enough, a line of information appeared in front of him. Pet advancement progress, 82%. At the same time, He also saw that he could directly give the pet an advancement pill to greatly increase the speed of advancement. However, the Goo King had to use an intermediate advancement pill to advance from rank 4 to rank 5. Lung Shiqi looked at the price. Good heavens, 2,000 system coins for one pill. He decided to let the Goo King slowly advance on its own. It would be soon anyway. As for the other pet enhancement, it divided the pet's attributes into 4 types, namely strength, agility, vitality, and intelligence. Spending some system coins to buy an enhancement pill could enhance one of the attributes. Lung Shiqi didn't need it for the time being. Since there was an extra pet slot, he decided to draw a pet first. Lung Shiqi then clicked on the pet summoning interface. He didn't hesitate and spent 3,000 system coins to perform an advanced pet summoning. 3 colors of blue, purple, and gold flashed in front of his eyes. This also corresponded to the pet's grade. Lung Shiqi couldn't help but feel a little nervous. After all, the difference between blue and gold was still very big. In the end, the color settled on purple. Lung Shiqi was secretly relieved. The purple grade was the same grade as the Goo King. Although it wasn't the best, it was still better than the blue grade. However, when the purple light dissipated and revealed the body of the pet, Lung Shiqi was stunned. What did he see? What he saw was a round, pink, and tender pig. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a purple grade pet. 4-legged metal swallowing beast. 4-legged metal swallowing beast? Lung Shiqi was surprised. Did such a creature really exist in this world? After the summoning was completed, the little pig jumped directly into Lung Shiqi's arms and snuggled a few times. It even made a gulyulu sound. It seemed to be very affectionate towards Lung Shiqi. Lung Shiqi was speechless as he picked up the little pig. The little pig was indeed very small. It was only as long as his forearm. At this time, its 2 small eyes were blinking at Lung Shiqi. Now that you mention it, it was a little cute. However, what was its use? As a purple grade pet, there should be something special about it. He opened the pet information and found that this 4-legged metal swallowing beast lived up to its name. There were only 2 ways to make this beast grow quickly. One was to swallow pet experience pills, and the other was to swallow spiritual stones. Not materials, but spiritual stones. For example, Lung Shiqi would feed the Goo King some materials when he was free. However, this 4-legged metal swallowing beast only ate spiritual stones. It really lived up to its name. The 4-legged metal swallowing beast's ability was also special. It was not a combat type pet, but a support type. Its ability was to search for nearby treasures. The higher its grade, the better the range and quality of the treasures it could search. It could be said that this 4-legged metal swallowing beast was a treasure hunting compass. Unfortunately, this little thing was only stage 1, and could only search for stage 1 resources within 100 feet. It still needed to be nurtured. Lung Shiqi touched his chin. This thing was not useless. Although it required a lot of spiritual stones to feed it, he had just obtained a large amount of resources, and could completely afford to raise it. In the future, he could also obtain a lot of precious resources through this beast. As long as he worked hard, he would be able to make a profit. Thinking of this, Lung Shiqi's heart could accept it. He took out a spiritual stone and put it in front of the 4-legged metal swallowing beast's face. Its small eyes suddenly became round, and its 4 short little legs began to move. It opened its mouth and swallowed the spiritual stone. With a few crunching sounds, the spiritual stone went into its stomach. After that, the little thing looked at Lung Shiqi with a face full of anticipation. It was almost drooling. Lung Shiqi smiled and said, "It's not that big, but its appetite is not small." Then he took out a few spiritual stones and put them aside for the little thing to eat. He was ready to see if there were any changes to the lottery system. Chapter 582. Lung Shiqi opened the Lucky Draw interface. Unfortunately, there were no new Lucky Draw options, but there was a free unlimited Lucky Draw option. He thought about it and realized that it had been a long time since he last did the Lucky Draw. The system coins that he had saved up in the past were all used to upgrade the system map by the Great Bright Fist, and exchange them for spirit stones at the auction. It could be said that all the system coins had been spent on the Lucky Draw, which meant that he had never had the chance to use them for the Lucky Draw. It was the same now. He had just summoned his pet and spent 3,000 system coins. The remaining 2,000 had to be used to buy some pet experience pills for the four-legged metal-swallowing beast. In addition, the shop had expanded a lot, and there were some things that he needed. Therefore, the system coins were still too scarce. He did not have much extra to use for the lucky draw. Of course, the most important thing was that even if he did not do the lucky draw, he was still self-sufficient. He was now very rich in cultivation methods, spiritual skills, and spiritual weapons. Then, he skillfully pressed the unlimited lucky draw button. He was very calm. After a flash of light, a secret manual appeared in front of him. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the advanced prize, level 6 spiritual skill, 9 Whitebone Claw. 9 Whitebone Claw? It's such a vicious spiritual skill. Lung Shiqi muttered as he picked up the secret manual. However, he suddenly smiled because he had a lot of vicious cultivation methods and spiritual skills. It just so happens that the Earth Demon Dragon Claw is too weak. It has some similarities with the 9 Whitebone Claw, so it can be combined. He quickly found a way to combine them. After the lucky draw, he was ready to see if there were any subsidiary systems that could be activated. Every time the system upgraded, a subsidiary system would be activated. Last time, he chose the pet system among several subsidiary systems. This time, he did not know what system he could choose from. System upgrade successful. Please choose a subsidiary system. Lung Shiqi clicked on this notification. Then, a large number of words suddenly appeared on the screen in front of him. Mission system, equipment system, dungeon system, team system, guild system, territory system, achievement system, master system, profession system, challenge system, mount system. There were dozens and hundreds of systems that he could choose from. Lung Shiqi was overjoyed, but at the same time, he felt a headache coming on. How long would it take to study them one by one? Now he could only use the elimination method to quickly choose. First, in the first round he would eliminate the subsidiary systems that could be eliminated without even looking at them, such as the mission, life, master and apprentice, marriage systems, and so on. After that, there were still about 50 to 60 subsidiary systems. He could only click on them one by one to take a closer look. The challenge system was an activity similar to climbing a tower. Every time one succeeded, there would be a certain reward. The earlier stages were relatively simple, and one could accumulate some resources. However, it would only get more and more difficult towards the end, to the point where it would be difficult to even take a single step. Apart from harvesting some low-grade and mid-grade resources, it would not be of much use, so it was eliminated. Team system. You can form a team with up to 4 people. You can sense each other and communicate with each other from a distance. He could only say that it was indeed very convenient. However, the only people he could trust in this world were the Delta Origi. He couldn't even gather 5 people, so he eliminated them. After rounds of selection, Lung Shiqi was only left with 4 subsidiary systems. They were the instance system, the profession system, the territory system, and the talent system. The instance system, as the name implied, allowed you to enter a dungeon. Back on Bloodmist Island, he had entered a mystical ruins instance. The battle had been fierce, but the rewards had been good. The instance system actually had 2 ways to unlock a dungeon. One was the instance card he had used before. After activating the instance system, you could obtain an instance card every day. As for the quality of the card and the type of dungeon, it was completely random. The other was to connect to a virtual world and set it as a large instance dungeon. It was then divided into smaller instance dungeons of varying difficulty. Once you cleared all the instance dungeons in this instance dungeon, you could continue to unlock the next instance dungeon. To put it bluntly, the instance system allowed you to enter one instance dungeon after another. You could either kill monsters or complete special quests, and finally receive the corresponding rewards. The profession system gave you a random profession, such as a craftsman, an alchemist, an array master, and so on. Lung Shiqi would be very happy if he could get these professions randomly. However, there were also some strange professions, like a demon hunter, a scavenger, a coffin keeper. No matter how you looked at it, they didn't seem like proper professions. Lung Shiqi was hesitant. The territory system. After activating this system, You had to randomly select a territory. This territory could be a mansion, an underground city, a secret realm, or even a futuristic sci-fi base. Once you had a territory, you would be the overlord of it. You would then have all sorts of ways to expand your territory. However, you only had one chance to select a territory. You could not change what territory you selected. It was a bit like an infinite lottery where the upper and lower limits were high. The talents in the talent system were somewhat similar to the bloodline power in this world, but talents were also drawn. For example, there was the talent Rapid Progress, which could speed up cultivation, the talent Berserk God, which could increase spiritual power, and the pupil skill Supercilious Eyes, which he already had. It could be said that the innate gifts system could directly or indirectly increase Lung Shiqi's strength. It was also the auxiliary system that he liked the most. Lung Shiqi's brows furrowed as he pondered. For a moment he didn't know which system to choose. These 4 subsidiary systems were carefully selected by him. Each of them had their own advantages. Of course, they also had their own disadvantages. For example, they were all more dependent on one's looks. After careful consideration, Lung Shiqi decided to eliminate the profession system. Although there was a chance that he'd be selected as an artificer or alchemist, Lung Shiqi didn't consider them irreplaceable. Especially after his strength and status became higher and higher, he was naturally able to mobilize high-level weapon refiners to forge ice blades for him, or invite alchemy masters to refine pills for him. If he'd been able to secure a good profession, he wouldn't have hesitated to choose the auxiliary system. Unfortunately, the profession system was random, so he had no choice but to give it up. Then he eliminated the instance dungeon system. He'd entered an instance system before, and knew he'd have to enter in his own body. Fighting in the instance system would inevitably lead to injuries. He wasn't afraid of being injured, but his status was becoming more and more sensitive. He didn't know how many people were secretly watching him. If he was inexplicably injured, it was inevitable that people would notice and target him. In the end, he could only choose between the territory system and the innate gifts system. Chapter 583. Only the territory system and the talent system were left. One could help him cultivate his forces, and the other could enhance his strength. It was really difficult to choose. If Lung Shiqi was still in the spirit aperture realm, he would not hesitate to choose the talent system. But now, Lung Shiqi's strength was comparable to the late stage of Gang spirit realm. No matter where he went, he could be called a master. He already had a certain foundation. Therefore, the cultivation of forces was also the most important thing for his future development. He now had the forces of the Dark Thunder Guards in the West and North counties, as well as several Dark Thunder Guards in the headquarters of the Dark Thunder Guards. He could also mobilize some of the killers of the Bloodcloak Pavilion. These 3 forces were actually not weak, but unfortunately, they were too scattered, and he could not use them freely. If he had his own force, then all the problems would be solved. In fact, this was also a great ambition hidden in Lung Shiqi's heart. That was, he would establish his own forces sooner or later. Whether it was the Bloodcloak Pavilion or the Dark Thunder Guards, for him, they were just a process of improving his strength and accumulating his foundation. Of course, he could not let the people of the Bloodcloak Pavilion and Eunuch Gao know this, or he would die miserably. Thinking of this, he was a little inclined to the territory system. But this territory system had the same major drawback as the profession system. That was, it was too dependent on luck. Lung Shiqi did not have to draw the best territory, but at least it could not be too shabby. The good thing about the talent system was that as long as he was willing to spend the system coins, he could definitely draw a good talent system. He still could not make up his mind, so he carefully studied the 2 systems. He unexpectedly found that no matter what kind of territory he drew in the territory system, this territory would not appear in this world, but was equivalent to a separate small space. Just like the small space of the Phantom Spirit Secret Realm and the Zhuge family's land. The most important thing was that Lung Shiqi, as the owner of the territory, could teleport into the territory at any time. What did this mean? Of course, it was convenient, but Lung Shiqi thought that this was an excellent way to escape. If he encountered any dangerous or powerful enemies, he could teleport directly to the territory and naturally avoid the danger. Lung Shiqi's heart skipped a beat. Although fate had a similar effect, it relied too much on the system map. Once the system entered an upgrade state, it would no longer be usable. Furthermore, the fate skill also had a channeling time. It was a very short period of time, but to an expert, even an instant was enough to kill you 1,000 times over. Compared to increasing his strength, having this absolute life-saving ability seemed to be more practical. Thinking of this, Lung Shiqi finally made up his mind and chose the territory system. Congratulations to the host for activating the subsidiary system, territory system. Randomly selecting territory. Lung Shiqi was not as nervous as before. He only needed the territory system to save his life. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the divine territory, underworld. Swoosh. Lung Shiqi suddenly stood up, his face full of undisguised surprise. Divine grade territory? After the unlimited skill points, he finally got another divine tier reward. He was well aware of the benefits of divine tier rewards. It could also be said that the unlimited skill points played an important and irreplaceable role in his current strength and achievements. He could use the unlimited skill points to quickly cultivate his spiritual skills to the highest level and gain a lot of insight and understanding. Therefore, he could smoothly fuse his spiritual skills. Therefore, the unlimited skill points were the foundation of his success. And now he finally got another divine tier reward, underworld. Underworld? Could it be that underworld? Lung Shiqi murmured. He was a little unsure if it was the underworld that he imagined. Whether it was or not, he would know once he entered. Lung Shiqi immediately opened the new territory system. There was indeed an option to enter territory. He gently clicked on it, and immediately, his body disappeared in an instant. In the blink of an eye, he had arrived in an extremely dark world. After seeing the surroundings clearly, Lung Shiqi was a little surprised. This was because as far as the eye could see, this space was pitifully small. It was similar to the small arcane realm that Oziu found back then. It was only a few miles in radius and he could see the end of it at a glance. At this moment, Lung Shiqi was standing in front of a dilapidated wooden gatehouse. This gatehouse was 2 feet tall and had a strange shape. There were some evil spirit patterns on it. However, most of the wooden structure had already rotted, as if it would collapse at any time. Lung Shiqi looked up and saw 3 large pitch-black words at the top of the gatehouse. Underworld's Gate. Seeing these 3 words, Lung Shiqi's pupil shrank slightly. Is this really the legendary underworld? However, the underworld did not look like the terrifying boundless hell in the legends. Instead, it looked more like a desolate village. Lung Shiqi frowned. He could only walk through the underworld's gate and continue forward. Inside the underworld's gate was a rugged path called the Road to the Underworld. Beside the road to the underworld was an almost dried-up stream. It was the River of Forgetfulness. As he walked forward, he came to a small wooden bridge that was 2 to 3 feet long. Looking at the rotten wooden board, it seemed like it would break with a light step. However, this small bridge was called the Bridge of Helplessness. Lung Shiqi subconsciously looked left and right. He did not see an old woman giving soup here. His brows were already furrowed. From the names of these places, this was indeed no different from the hell mentioned in his previous life. However, this was too shabby. It was not worthy of the grade of a god-level territory. Lung Shiqi could only continue forward with doubts. Creak, creak. He walked across the shaky bridge of helplessness. Beside him was a haystack that was several people tall. On it were the words Village Viewing Platform. Behind the village viewing platform was an extremely ugly boulder. One side of the boulder was very smooth. This item was called the 3-life stone. Lung Shiqi stopped in front of the 3-life stone for a while. He did not see his previous life and current life on it. He shook his head and walked forward. Not long after, he came in front of a large thatched hut. This unremarkable thatched hut was actually the Hall of Ecstasy that condemned people to sin. Lung Shiqi did not walk in. His attention was attracted by a dilapidated city gate not far away. The city gate was about 3 to 4 feet tall. The dilapidated city walls on both sides did not seem to have an end. There was a couplet on both sides of the city gate. The first couplet said, "Man and ghost, ghost and man and ghost are different." The second couplet said, "Yin and yang and yin, Yin and yang are forever separated. This couplet did not have a horizontal inscription. Instead, there was a black plaque where the words Fengdu City were written in gold. Chapter 584. Seeing the three golden words Fengdu City, Leng Shiqi's eyes lit up. He vaguely remembered that there were two types of underworld systems in his previous life. One was the East Mountain underworld led by the Great Emperor of the East Mountain, and the other was the Fengdu City underworld led by the Great Emperor of the East Mountain. Of course, there were also systems that combined the two. The Great Emperor of the East Mountain was in charge of all living things in the world, while the Fengdu Emperor of the North was in charge of hell. It seemed that the God-tier territory he had drawn was a mythological system led by the Fengdu Emperor. The gates of Fengdu City were currently closed. Leng Shiqi walked up to the gates and pushed gently. The gates were easily pushed open by him. However, there was nothing behind the gates. There was only nothingness. At this time, the system prompt appeared. Congratulations to the host for becoming the master of Underworld, the Fengdu Emperor of the North. Underworld Territories current level, Tier 0. Underworld Territories upgrade requirements. 1. Recruit a member of Underworld. 2. 5,000 system coins. Seeing this information, Leng Shiqi finally understood. It turned out that although the territory drawn by the system was God tier, it still needed to be upgraded slowly from Tier 1. The two requirements to upgrade Underworld seemed simple, but Leng Shiqi had a bad feeling about them. First, he needed to recruit a member. This was the first member of Underworld, and it had to be someone he could completely trust. Therefore, he could only set his sights on the Delta Origi. But what about the future? If he continued to upgrade Underworld, he would definitely need to recruit more members. Who would he look for then? Also, the system coins were also a scam. Upgrading Underworld from Tier 0 to Tier 1 required 5,000 system coins. Wouldn't that be a sky-high price in the future? He vaguely felt that the territory system was a bottomless pit. Most importantly, apart from being able to teleport into Underworld to avoid danger, there seemed to be nothing else he could do. As for his title of Fengdu Emperor of the North, it seemed very powerful, but it was completely useless. He was a general without an army. After walking around Underworld, he gained nothing. The joy he felt from drawing a God-tier territory was completely washed away. At least for now, this Underworld was indeed useless. He just didn't know what it would become after upgrading. Leng Shiqi sighed deeply, then chose to leave the territory. The next moment he appeared in the outside world again, and his location remained the same. He suddenly became thoughtful. If he encountered any danger in the future and needed to hide in the Underworld, then he would have to stay there for a while. Otherwise, it would be bad if the enemy was waiting for him. At this point, he had more or less finished studying the changes that had occurred after the system upgrade. It was time to get down to business. He opened the system map and quickly found the location of the Wasteland tribe. Then he was bathed in red, blue, and yellow light and disappeared. At this time, in the central tent of the Wasteland tribe, Chief Anson was sitting with a worried face. Below him, there were three people arguing fiercely. They were the 3rd, 4th, and 5th chiefs of the Wilderness tribe, 2 in the middle stage of Gang Spirit Realm, and 1 in the early stage of Gang Spirit Realm. The reason for their quarrel was Hope's Baron Chuan tribe. The Baron Chuan tribe could be said to be the most talked about force in Ningyan County recently. Hope had destroyed 2 spirit cultivation sects in succession, and subdued some sections. Not only had he become famous, but his strength had also improved greatly. The Baron Chuan tribe and the Baron Chuan tribe were sworn enemies. The Baron Chuan tribe had always been stronger, but now they were obviously weaker than Hope. Everyone knew what Hope was thinking, so now the Baron Chuan tribe was most worried about when Hope would come to attack them. The 3rd leader of the Baron Chuan tribe said, "Hope is ambitious. He has long been in a situation where he will fight to the death with us. Sooner or later he will attack us. Instead of passively defending, we might as well take advantage of the fact that the sects that have surrendered to him haven't gathered yet and gained the upper hand." You make it sound nice. We have been enemies with Hope for so long. Don't you know that he has spies around us? As long as we send a large number of people, he will definitely know in advance. The 4th leader shook his head. The 3rd leader's face fell. He sneered and said, If you know that there are spies around, you will be negligent. What do you know? Sometimes, we can use these spies to deliberately leak false information to Hope, but we definitely won't be able to hide it from him if we move on a large scale. The fifth leader acted as a mediator. The most important thing now is to strengthen our strength. In my opinion, we should call back second brother as soon as possible. Also, we can contact the sects that have been on good terms with us before. Maybe we can borrow some people. Leader and son finally spoke. Fifth leader's idea is reliable. As long as we gather all our strength and deal with all changes by sticking to the status quo, Hope won't dare to attack us rashly even if he is slightly stronger than us. The fourth leader sighed. Big brother, think about it. Why did the Baron Chuan tribe destroy the Water Cloud sect and the Chun family of Blazing Sun City? Isn't it because these two sects accepted his benefits but didn't do anything? Now who doesn't know that we are like fire and water with Hope? We can fight at any time. Which sects will help us at this time? If worst comes to worst, we will follow Hope's example and kill whoever disobeys. The third leader shouted. However, at this moment, a person ran in from outside and bowed. Leader, someone outside wants to see you. He says he has an important secret to tell you. The third leader was immediately displeased. Who is this person? What is his cultivation level? The person shook his head and said, I don't recognize him. He seems to be a rogue cultivator, only at the spirit transformation realm. Spirit transformation realm? The third leader was furious. How dare you? How dare you swindle your way into our tribe? Break his legs and throw him out. But the person hesitated and raised the thing in his hand. It was a broken green gem. The wasteland gem. The leaders were shocked when they saw it. This wasteland gem was a treasure unique to their tribe, and only experts at the four realms of heaven were qualified to wear it. Since this gem was broken, it meant that someone in the wasteland tribe had died, and Sun immediately felt that something was wrong. He quickly said, Quickly bring the person at the door in. Yes. Soon, a shabbily dressed middle-aged man walked in. His appearance was average, and his face was a little stiff. He slowly said, Greetings, leaders. And Sun and the others looked at each other. This person didn't seem to be very smart. Who are you? Where did you get this wasteland gem? And Sun asked in a deep voice. I found it at Mount Sen Ning. There are still many of these things. After saying that, he shook his sleeves. With a clatter, a small pile of broken wasteland gems was thrown to the ground. There was even a piece that was about the same size as in Sen's head. And Sun and the others instantly turned pale with fright when they saw this scene. Chapter 585. Anson and the other three recognized it at a glance. The biggest gem belonged to the second leader, Cook. Coupled with the broken gems on the ground, they instantly thought of one thing. And that was that something had happened to the caravan led by Cook. Not only had something happened, but judging from the current situation, they had probably been completely annihilated. The third leader, who had the most explosive temper, shouted, Impossible. Second brother's caravan was moving in secret. Outsiders did not know about it at all. Besides, with second brother's strength and so many experts, how could they be completely annihilated? I don't believe it. The third leader instantly grabbed the middle-aged man's neck, and a vicious aura rose from his body. However, the man's face was still blank, without the slightest bit of fear. Seeing this, the third leader was even more furious. Just as he was about to pinch the man to death, and Sun stopped him. Third brother, don't be rash. Let's ask clearly first. This brother, can you describe the scene you saw? The middle-aged man briefly described the scene of Cook's group dying miserably. And Sen's face was also as gloomy as water. He gritted his teeth and said, Who did it? Who else could it be? It must be Hope without a doubt. The third leader said angrily. Otherwise, who would have the ability to kill second brother? But other than the few of us, no one else knows about second brother's whereabouts. How did Hope intercept second brother? And Sun asked doubtfully. The third leader looked at the fourth leader suspiciously. The fourth leader's heart trembled. What, third brother? Are you suspecting me? I didn't say that. Why are you in such a hurry to take a seat? Do you have a guilty conscience? The third leader said sarcastically. Bullshit. You. Just as the fourth leader was about to refute, and Sun shouted, Enough! And Sun instructed, Men, take care of this person first. Third brother, take some people to Mount Sanning to take a look at the situation. Fifth brother, contact the spirit cultivator sects that are on good terms with us. As for fourth brother, you can go back first. Then 2 people walked in and took the middle-aged man away. The third leader glared at the fourth leader fiercely and walked out quickly. The fourth leader secretly gritted his teeth and took a deep look at Senator. However, he didn't say anything and finally went back obediently. The fifth leader said uneasily, Big brother, will it be dangerous for third brother to go out? I think it's better if we don't split up. Maybe Hopper is lying in ambush around us. And Sun thought for a moment and said, Don't worry. I've also planted spies in the Huangchuan tribe. They haven't done anything yet. The fifth chieftain nodded and left. 30 miles away from the wilderness tribe, Lung Shiqi saw the 2 masters of Gang Spirit Realm leaving the wilderness tribe in different directions. He smiled. At present, all the reactions and actions of the Wasteland tribe were within his expectations. The middle-aged man with the broken gem just now was actually a casual practitioner caught by Lung Shiqi. He controlled the man's mind with flowing light illusion, so in fact, the man had become Lung Shiqi's puppet. Lung Shiqi couldn't help but sigh at the horror of flowing light illusion. However, this technique also had a certain flaw, which was that the person being controlled would be sluggish. If it weren't for the shocking news that Cuck and the others were all killed, and Sun and the others might have noticed the man's abnormality. But fortunately, they weren't careful enough. Now, the third leader of the wilderness tribe had gone to Mount Sanning with the spirit tablet of spiritual aperture realm. If Lung Shiqi was right, Hopper must have arranged masters to ambush there. The third leader probably couldn't come back. As for the fifth chieftain, a killing intent flashed in Lung Shiqi's eyes, and he left as light as the wind and as fast as lightning. The Wasteland tribe's fifth chieftain was called Enrich. He had the lowest cultivation, the lowest status, and the lowest authority among the 5 chieftains. Perhaps it was because of this that he saw things more clearly than the other chieftains who were blinded by power. For example, when Sun asked him to contact the spirit cultivator sects, he could say that 90% of the spirit cultivator sects would not agree to help. Moreover, he always felt that the attack on Cuck's caravan was a bit strange. But he didn't have much authority in front of the other chieftains. Even if he brought it up, it would be ignored, so he could only do as he was told. At this time, he was rushing through a small path to the nearest spirit cultivator sect. Suddenly, a cold wind blew around him, and ghostly shadows howled. White bone claw shadows fell from the sky, and the sharp sound of the air being torn apart made people feel as if their eardrums were about to burst. Someone's ambushing us. And Sun couldn't help but be shocked. His reaction wasn't slow, and a pair of rings appeared in his hands. The ring split into 2 and flew out of his hand, turning into 2 giant pythons that intertwined and rushed into the claw shadows. However, at this moment, a terrifying baleful aura filled the world, as if a demon had descended. The terrifying baleful aura almost isolated the surrounding spiritual energy, and the 2 giant pythons immediately showed signs of distorting and collapsing. What a terrifying baleful aura! How many people has this person killed? And Xing's heart was filled with shock. He simply couldn't understand who had targeted him and ambushed him here. What he was even more puzzled about was that only the 3 chieftains knew that he had come out, and that he had taken a small path. Most people didn't know about this path at all, so how could the other party have ambushed him here so early? At this moment, even he began to suspect that one of the 3 chieftains had betrayed him. However, he wasn't worried about this right now, but how to escape. In the blink of an eye, the 2 giant pythons had been shattered, and even his pair of rings were covered in cracks. It could be seen that the person who attacked was far stronger than him. The Lung Shiqi was also a little surprised by the power of the 9-in Whitebone Claw. Of course, he was more surprised. He also saw that Enrich had the intention to escape. With a shake of his body, he suddenly divided into 5 colorful figures and surrounded Enrich. Enrich finally saw the person who attacked him, but unfortunately, what he saw were 5 phantoms, which he couldn't tell whether they were real or not. The 5 Lung Shiqi formed a pentagonal shape and made a gesture respectively. Behind him, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth gathered madly and condensed into 5 formations of different colors. Spots of flowing light gathered in those formations, exuding extremely terrible spiritual energy fluctuations. Rotating light formation. The 5 formations completely blocked all of Enxing's retreat, leaving him no way to escape. The flowing light fell like a meteor shower. Enxing's cultivation was only at the early stage of Gang Spirit Realm. The only thing he could do now was to fight desperately. Unfortunately, when he was about to use his trump card, the 5 Lung Shiqi's eyes all flashed with dazzling 9-colored light, and Enxing was suddenly in a trance. It was in this moment of trance that he was killed by the countless streams of light that poured into his body. Enxing was a little bit surprised. The Lung Shiqi habitually absorbed a wisp of remnant soul, but to his surprise, a system prompt appeared at this time. Mansion of the Underworld absorbed a soul. Chapter 586. Seeing this system prompt, Lung Shiqi's heart skipped a beat. He quickly put away Enxing's mustard bracelet and cleaned up the scene, and then teleported into the Mansion of the Dead. As soon as he entered the Mansion of the Dead, he appeared in front of the Gate of the Dead. As expected, he saw a ghost standing there. Lung Shiqi approached and took a look. The face of the ghost was clearly Enxing. But why did Enxing's soul come to his Mansion of the Dead after his death? Lung Shiqi thought hard. In fact, there should be a place similar to hell in every world, so that people could continue to reincarnate after death. Now that Enxing's soul came to his Mansion of the Dead, wasn't it equivalent to robbing the business of the hell in this world? But then again, his Mansion of the Dead was just a name. It had no ability to help people reincarnate, so Enxing's soul could only be left here for the time being. Lung Shiqi walked around Enxing's soul twice, and found that the soul's eyes were dull, like a dead thing. It should be fine to leave it here. Lung Shiqi thought further. Since the Mansion of the Dead had pulled in other people's souls, it meant that the Mansion of the Dead did have the function of reincarnation. Then, as the master of the Mansion of the Dead, would there be some benefits for him to reincarnate others? Of course, this could only be confirmed after the Mansion of the Dead was upgraded. Now his top priority was to destroy the Wilderness Tribe first, and then he could plan something big. Then Lung Shiqi left the Mansion of the Dead, but this matter also made him realize that the god-level territory he had drawn was really not simple. At the same time, in the place where Kuk was ambushed in Sanning Mountain, there were 3 more corpses on the ground. They were the 3rd leader of the Wilderness Tribe, and his 2 subordinates in the Spirit Aperture Realm. The ones who killed them were the 4 masters in the Gang Spirit Realm, including Hopu and Feng Shamo. Hopu burst into laughter and said, "Awesome, awesome! Now there are only 2 or 3 masters in the Gang Spirit Realm left in the Wilderness Tribe. Let's go and join the main force. Tonight I will attack the Wilderness Tribe." At night, Sun, the leader of the Wilderness Tribe, was drinking alone. It was late at night, but the 3rd leader and the 5th leader had not returned. Regardless of whether he went to Mount Sanning to investigate the situation, or went to the Spirit Cultivators sect to ask for help, regardless of the result, he should have returned long ago to report back. And Sun felt uneasy. And this feeling of uneasiness was getting stronger and stronger. At this moment, he suddenly sensed that there were strong spiritual forces outside the tribe, and there were 8 of them in the Gang Spirit Realm. Bang! And Sen's expression froze, and the flagon in his hand shattered on the ground. How is this possible? How is this possible? Hopu was still in the Barren River tribe during the day. When did all of them come out? A few terrified subordinates ran into the room and shouted, "Leader, something bad has happened. That Hopu is coming with a large number of experts." "What are you waiting for?" Anson roared. "Gather the warriors and prepare for battle." Ha 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 ha. Hopper's arrogant laughter echoed throughout heaven and earth. "It's too late, Anson. Prepare to die." And Sun rushed out of the tent, only to find that the 8 people in the Gang Spirit Realm led by Hopu had taken the lead to attack. Wherever they went, no one could stop them. The 8 of them were like a sharp knife stabbing into the heart of the Wilderness Tribe. Seeing his tribesmen being mercilessly slaughtered, and Sen's eyes almost popped out of his head. However, when he saw the dense warriors behind Hopu, he did not choose to fight for his life. Instead, he turned around and fled. At this time, how could he not understand that the second leader, the third leader, and the fifth leader must have been assassinated by Hope long ago? Now there were only 2 people in the gang spirit realm left in the tribe, he and the fourth leader, while the other side had 8. How could they fight? Moreover, the spiritual aperture realm of the Barren River tribe was far more than that of the Wilderness tribe. Coupled with the 8 people in the gang spirit realm killing everywhere, the Wilderness tribe had suffered heavy losses in a short time. This was no longer an equal battle. If Sun continued to stay here, what awaited him was only death. It was better to take this opportunity to escape. As long as he was still alive, the Wilderness tribe would not be destroyed. Sun himself had never thought that he would be defeated so quickly and so thoroughly. But this was the fact, and he could only accept it. At this moment, his only thought was to escape first. For Hopu, anyone in the Wilderness tribe could live, but Sun must die. Hopu saw Sun turn around and flee, and he cursed, "Coward." He would never let Sun escape, so he immediately rushed after him. Lung Shichi executed remnant wind lightning light steps, and caught up with Sun in a few flashes as if he was teleporting. Hundreds of sword chi of star extinction formed a sword prison in the void and shrouded Senator Sun turned around, and was startled to find that someone had caught up with him. But when he found that the person who caught up with him was only at the first level of the gang spirit realm, he suddenly smiled coldly. "You are courting death." A powerful green light burst out from his body, and a fierce beast roar came out, shaking the space and directly shattering a large number of sword chi of star extinction. However, he didn't notice that there were several mysterious stars shining in the sword chi of star extinction. Immediately, several starlight chains fell from the sky, and were about to bind Senior. But behind Sun suddenly appeared the shadow of a ferocious behemoth as high as dozens of meters. Lung Shichi furrowed his brows. He could only control the starlight chain to bind the 4 limbs of the phantom beast. The phantom beast continued to struggle, causing the starlight chain to shake violently, as if it would break at any moment. However, Lung Shichi did stop Sun. Hopu finally caught up with him. His whole body lit up with spells from the remote antiquity, and behind him, the shadow of an ancient god of war appeared. Hopu didn't use any fancy spiritual power. He just punched, and the ancient god of war punched back. In an instant, the sky darkened, as if all the spiritual power and light of heaven and earth were destroyed by the punch. Rumble! There was a loud bang in the sky, like a sudden clap of thunder. With the place where they were fighting as the center, the ground within a radius of 10,000 feet caved in deeply. Waves of terrifying spirit energy spread out, and those with slightly lower cultivations were directly washed to death. Looking at Sun again, his body was covered in bloody scars. He looked like a broken porcelain doll, but there were wisps of green light constantly repairing his body. Sun was seriously injured, and he stared at Lung Shichi with hatred. If he hadn't been trapped by Lung Shichi's heavenly star lock, how could he have been seriously injured by Hopu in one blow? But he didn't expect that Lung Shichi was also staring at him, and his eyes were full of killing intent. As soon as the Demon Advent War blade appeared, a blade light condensed with all of Lung Shichi's power tore through the night sky and cut through heaven and earth. At this moment, it was as if heaven and earth were frozen, and only this blade light was able to cut through everything. At the same time, an invisible blade light tore open Sun's spiritual world, wantonly destroying his divine thoughts. Divine Ephemeral Bloom. Chapter 587. The strike seemed to split the sky and the earth. However, what surprised Lung Shichi the most was that Sun was still alive. At this moment, Sun was bleeding from all his orifices. His whole body was covered in blood, but the gem on his forehead was emitting a faint light, preserving Sun's last trace of life. It was the first time that Lung Shichi's magic flash in the pan failed. Generally speaking, he would only use this move when he was sure to kill. He didn't expect Sun to have such a strong life-saving ability. But he wasn't worried, because Sun could not escape the fate of death. At this time, Hopu attacked again. Although he was also amazed by Lung Shichi's strike, the most important thing now was to kill Sun. Hopu said disdainfully, "The Wasteland Mother Stone can save you once, but not twice." He clenched his fists, and a momentum filled the world. When his fists fell, the earth shook as if an earth dragon turned over. At this time, Anson had no strength to resist, and was buried in the abyss in an instant. Lung Shiqi absorbed a trace of Anson's soul, and knew that he was finally dead. At the same time, he also got the system, and the underworld had many more souls. These were the dead people of the Wasteland tribe, including Anson. But Lung Shiqi felt it was a pity that Anson's storage bracelet would be wasted. He planned to go down and take it out when there was no one around. As soon as Anson died, Hopu couldn't help laughing wildly. He had fought with Anson for decades, and most of the time he was suppressed by the Wasteland tribe. Now that the Wasteland tribe's defeat was certain, how could he not be excited? With Anson's death, the other fourth leader also died under the siege of several masters of Gang Spirit Realm. Without Gang Spirit Realm masters, the Wasteland tribe was like meat on a chopping board, completely at the mercy of others. At dawn, the battle was over, and the Wasteland tribe was wiped out. The Wasteland tribe only paid the price of dozens of low-level warriors. It could be said that it was a one-sided massacre. Hopa knew very well that it was all thanks to Lung Shiqi, who first helped the Huangchuan tribe expand its power, and then killed 3 masters of the Gang Spirit Realm of the Huangchuan tribe. Not only that, he had acted with extreme speed to stop Sun, who was about to escape, and had even forced Sun to use his life-saving trump card. That was how he had been killed by Hop in 2 moves. It could be said that without the Lung Shiqi, Hopu would never have been able to destroy the Wasteland tribe. Hopu walked to Lung Shiqi with a large pile of mustard seed bags in his arms. Mr. Liu, I can't thank you enough. These are all the resources we found in the Wasteland tribe. They're all yours. Lung Shiqi was also tempted. The Wasteland tribe was equivalent to a second-rate faction, and much stronger than a second-rate faction. For example, there were only 3 Gang Spirit Realm practitioners in the Extreme Fire Manor that he had destroyed, but there were 5 in the Wilderness tribe. Moreover, the warriors cultivated by this kind of tribe were stronger than ordinary spirit cultivators. It was definitely not comparable to an ordinary second-rate faction. More importantly, the Wasteland tribe controlled 2 precious mineral veins, which was equivalent to sitting on 2 mountains of gold and silver. That was real wealth. It was precisely because the 2 mineral veins had fallen into Hopa's hands that he was so generous to give all the resources he had plundered to Lung Shiqi. Lung Shiqi did not hesitate and reached out to take them. He needed a lot of system coins to cultivate 2 pets and upgrade the mansion of the dead. From time to time, he had to buy something in the mall, so he would never complain about having too many resources. Seeing Lung Shiqi accept them, Hopa was also happy. He patted his chest and said, Mr. Liu, I, Hopu, have always been a man of my word. After I tidy up here, I'll help you kill the Dark Thunder Guards. Lung Shiqi shook his head and said with a smile, The Dark Thunder Guards are not easy to kill. If we really kill them openly, I'm afraid the Thunderfire dynasty will take action. At that time, we will all die without a burial place. Well, that's true. Hopa scratched his head and said, Mr. Liu must have his own plans. Tell me, what do you want me to do? Lung Shiqi smiled coldly. Chief Hopu, I remember that the Wilderness tribe originally had a mineral vein that produced or called star stone. Yes, although this ore is not very precious, it is very adaptable and very suitable for refining weapons. Our Huangchuan tribe relied on this mine to survive until now. Mr. Liu mentioned the starstone vein, because you want it? Speaking of this, Hopu was still somewhat vigilant. After all, the starstone vein was the foundation of his foundation. He could not afford to lose it. Lung Shiqi instantly saw through Hopa's thoughts. He said, Chief Hopu, don't worry. I just want to use the starstone vein to lure the Dark Thunder Guards here. Lure them here? Yes. Lung Shiqi nodded and said, If I'm not wrong, Chief Hopa must have handed over a lot of ore to the Dark Thunder Guards every year. At the mention of this, Hopu immediately said angrily, That Li Zhangtao is really a bastard. He wants us to hand over 30% of the Starstone Vein's production every year. Mr. Liu, do you know how many of our brothers die because of mining every year? Those are the ores we exchanged with our lives for, and Li Zhangtao wants to take away 30% with just a touch of his mouth. But if we don't give it to him, he'll come and seal the Starstone Vein, and then we won't even get a single ore. Alas, our wilderness tribe has no other source of wealth other than the starstone vein. The warriors of the tribe are not good at anything except fighting, so we can only be slaughtered by Li Zhangtao. Fortunately, that brat Di Chuan has lived up to our expectations. Not only did he enter the discipline commission and receive great training, but he's also been sent to the imperial capital. That Li Zhangtao has only recently restrained himself a little. After listening to these words, most of them were within Leng Shiqi's expectations, but he still had a doubt, so he asked, Chief Hopu, why do people die while mining? The warriors of the tribe are all strong and have cultivated spiritual power. It's reasonable to say that there shouldn't be any deaths. Hopu also smiled bitterly. To be honest, this starstone vein has been mined in the hands of the wilderness tribe for hundreds of years. Before that, we don't know how long it has been mined. In fact, there aren't many ores left. If you want to mine, you have to go thousands of feet deep into the cave. But there's something strange down there. From time to time, some strange light will emit. Anyone who touches it will either die or be injured. I've also gone down to take a look myself, but I didn't find any clues. Those lights appear without warning, and there's no pattern at all. So even if the people sent to mine are all elites, it's inevitable that there will be casualties. Hearing this, Leng Shiqi was even more certain of one thing. That was a secret treasure of the Star Tribe must be under the Starstone vein. Chapter 588. Leng Shiqi pretended to think for a while. Chief Hopper, why don't we use the Starpoint load to lure the Dark Thunder guards here? What do you want to do, Mr. Liu? Hopper was also very confused. He didn't know what Leng Shiqi was thinking. Leng Shiqi chuckled. If the miners find a great treasure in the depths of the Starpoint lode, what do you think Li Zhangtao will do? Hopper was stunned. He said in confusion, but there's no treasure in the Starpoint lode. Let's not talk about that first. Based on your understanding of Li Zhangtao, what will he do? Hopper immediately snorted. If Li Zhangtao knows there's treasure in the Starpoint lode, he'll definitely bring people to rob it. He'll also threaten to confiscate all my loads if I don't hand over the treasure. You're right. Leng Shiqi continued. Then I'd like to ask Chief Hopper another question. Now that we've taken down the Wasteland tribe by force, will the Discipline Commission intervene? This question was asked to Hopper. He didn't know why Leng Shiqi suddenly changed the topic. However, when he thought about it carefully, it seemed that the Discipline Commission might really come looking for trouble. Although the Huangchuan tribe had destroyed 2 third-rate sects before, they had a good reason to do so. Moreover, the Shuiyin cult and the Chen family were only third-rate sects after all. They didn't know that the Discipline Commission would go to war. However, it was different now. Although the Huangchuan tribe and the Wasteland tribe had been holding grudges for a long time, the destruction of a second-rate sect was a slap to the Discipline Commission's face. They definitely wouldn't be able to escape the investigation of the Discipline Commission. When the news got out, the Discipline Commission would definitely send people to hold them accountable. Thinking of this, Hopper was a little upset. He quickly asked, Mr. Liu, you have to help me. Leng Shiqi waved his hand and said, Don't worry, Chief Hopper. The reason why I asked you those 2 questions is that we can use Li Zhangtao to send the people of the Discipline Commission away. The more he spoke, the more confused Hopper became. Leng Shiqi had no choice but to explain. Think about it. If you really found a treasure under the Starpoint lode, who would know about it first other than the Huangchuan tribe? Hopu frowned and pondered for a moment before saying, Dark Thunder Guards. That's right. Although the Dark Thunder Guards are a bit of a scoundrel, their ability to gather intelligence is still top-notch. Leng Shiqi nodded. As long as Li Zhangtao knows about this, do you think he will let the people of the Discipline Commission make trouble for you? Wouldn't that be the same as giving the treasure to the Discipline Commission? Li Zhangtao is not that stupid. Hopu finally understood that Leng Shiqi was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Not only could he attract Lian Lei's guards, but he could also prevent the people of the Discipline Commission from causing trouble. However, the premise of all this was that there was a treasure in the Starpoint mineral vein. But in reality, where did the treasure come from? Hee, it's still up to us whether there is a treasure or not. Leng Shiqi chuckled. I will go down the Starpoint mineral vein, and deliberately make some noise. The miners will accidentally find the treasure inside. Then leader Hopu, you just need to cooperate with me to put on a show. Hopu's eyes lit up when he heard this. Okay, Mr. Lu, please arrange it. One day later, Lung Shiqi had arrived at the Star Point mineral vein. At this time, most of the miners had been quietly transferred away, leaving only a few who were pretending to be there. Lung Shiqi soon landed in the deepest part of the Star Point mineral vein. He opened his supercilious eyes and found that his vision was blocked more than 10 miles below. It must be a high-level array that could block the supercilious eyes. Lung Shiqi's body immediately sank into the ground. He was able to move freely underground. Soon he arrived in front of a complicated array. Seeing that the array was very similar to the one in the Zhuge family, it seemed that it was indeed the work of the Star Tribe. As soon as he appeared, dozens of starlights shot toward him. He could feel the terrible aura of destruction from those starlights. Under normal circumstances, it would be difficult for him to resist with his current strength. However, he did not need to resist at all. He quickly activated the Heavenly Star technique. With him as the center, a huge star atlas instantly appeared around him. It was the Heavenly Star Gang. The power of the Heavenly Star Gang was even stronger than the Golden Dragon Flame Gang. However, he never dared to use it in front of others, because if someone recognized it, he would be hunted down by the whole continent. At this time, as soon as the Star Atlas appeared, the starlights that shot toward him suddenly dissipated. The array in front of him also slowly rotated, and a door appeared in front of him. There was no pattern on the door, only a star that shone with a bloody light. Lung Shiqi walked to the door, stretched out his index finger, and forced a drop of blood essence from his fingertip. When the blood flew into the crimson star, the star immediately twisted, and even the door kept twisting. It was as if the space was distorted. Immediately, the bloody star suddenly disappeared, and was replaced by a narrow opening that could only allow one person to enter. Lung Shiqi withdrew the Heavenly Star Gang and walked into the opening. When he entered, the outside returned to normal. The first thing that Lung Shiqi saw was a huge, lofty palace. The whole palace was dotted with stars, as if it was formed by countless stars. There was a dark blue road between him and the palace. The road was made of a strange material. Walking on it was as smooth as a mirror, but it gave people the feeling that they were strolling in the starry sky. When they felt it carefully, they found that there were traces of spiritual power actively entering their bodies. The material that paved the road was a rare treasure. Lung Shiqi took a step forward, but he heard a caw-caw sound coming from all around. Then, under the tiles, statues that were 2 people tall rose. There were hundreds of statues, and each of them was silver gray. They were expressionless, and only their eyes shone with starlight. They seemed to have their own consciousness. The scary thing was that the aura that these statues emitted was comparable to a spirit cultivator at the spirit aperture realm. Lung Shiqi was alert. He continued to try to take a few steps forward, and found that the statues had gathered together, forming 2 rows on the left and right. Then they lowered their heads. It was as if they were welcoming their master back. Lung Shiqi thought that people with the bloodline of the Star Clan could enter unimpeded. He then strode forward, and went straight to the door of the main hall. On both sides of the door, there were 2 huge statues that were dozens of feet tall. When Lung Shiqi came here, the 2 statues reached out their left and right hands to help him open the door. However, the moment the door was opened, a shocking starlight suddenly burst out thousands of feet below the star vein. The starlight directly penetrated thousands of feet, and went straight into the sky. The starlight outlined the shadow of the main hall in the sky, and then suddenly disappeared. Chapter 589. The starlight illuminated the world. Although it was just a flash, it still attracted some people's attention. The Huangchuan tribe immediately took action, and tried their best to block the news. Anyone who saw it was either killed, or given a lot of benefits to keep their mouths shut. However, this news was still leaked out. At this moment, in Ningyang County's Dark Thunder Manor, Li Zhangtao was furious, because 3 days had passed and he still hadn't found any trace of Lung Shiqi. It was as if this person had suddenly disappeared without a trace. Not only Lung Shiqi, but the 2 people he brought with him were also the same. Trash, a bunch of trash. Li Zhongtao scolded the few senior supervisors under his command. How could you just watch 3 living people disappear right in front of your eyes? Who are you? You are the Dark Thunder Guards. You can't even find traces of 3 people. What else can you do? Do you still deserve to be the Dark Thunder Guards? Li Zhongtao was anxious. Leng Shiqi had been in Ningyang County for several days, but he couldn't find any trace of Leng Shiqi. It was even more impossible for him to know what Leng Shiqi was doing. Why did Leng Shiqi come to Ningyang County? He was here to seize power. Since he was here to seize power, of course he couldn't just hide. Li Zhongtao thought that Leng Shiqi must be hiding in the dark and planning something. As the saying goes, it's easier to dodge an open spear than an arrow in the dark. Li Zhongtao was now in the dark. He didn't know when Leng Shiqi would make a move, and he didn't know what methods Leng Shiqi would use. Therefore, he was really anxious. He no longer had the confidence that he had on the first day that he had everything under control. The 4 inspectors, including Lin Jiegue, all kept their mouths shut. They didn't even dare to breathe. They had indeed messed up this matter, and deserved to be scolded. But they couldn't really be blamed. Leng Shiqi and the other 2 people's cultivations were too high. To be honest, only the 4 inspectors and Li Zhongtao himself could keep up with their speed. But they couldn't possibly do it themselves. But other than them, it was impossible for their subordinates to track down Leng Shiqi and the other 2. Lin Jiegue and the other 3 were well aware of this, but none of them dared to say it out loud. If anyone said it out loud, it was very likely that they would be sent by Li Zhongtao to find the whereabouts of Leng Shiqi. This was a tough job, and no one was willing to do it. Therefore, they obediently waited for Li Zhongtao to finish scolding and cool down. Lin Jiegue then took the opportunity to change the topic. Sir Li, I heard that the Huangchuan tribe has made a lot of movements in the past 2 days. They even destroyed the Wasteland tribe. How could Li Zhongtao not see through Lin Jiegue's thoughts? But he still said, I know about this. Hopper doesn't know how to appreciate favors. But we can't do anything about it. The people of the Discipline Commission will look for him. On the other hand, Lin Jiegue chuckled and said mysteriously, Sir, actually, your humble servant has also found a piece of shocking good news. Don't keep me in suspense. If you have something to say, just say it, Li Zhongtao said impatiently. Lin Jiegue lowered his voice and said, Your humble servant has just received a report that the Starpoint mine of the Huangchuan tribe shone with starlight yesterday. It seems that a rare treasure has appeared. Oh, the Huangchuan tribe again? Recently, Li Zhongtao had often heard news about this tribe. This was too strange. There must be something fishy about this. The recent series of movements of the Huangchuan tribe must be fishy. Could it be that all of this had something to do with this so-called rare treasure? Li Zhongtao asked, Tell me the details. As soon as he asked, Lin Jiegue secretly breathed a sigh of relief. He had finally succeeded in changing the topic. He hurriedly said, It's strange. There were no signs of the Starpoint mine. Right after Hopper attacked the Wasteland tribe, a mysterious starlight suddenly erupted. After that, Hopper even sealed off the news. But there's no secret in front of my Dark Thunder Guards. My spies still found out. It said that there's a treasure hidden thousands of feet deep in the Starpoint mine. Really? Li Zhongtao revealed an expression of interest when he heard this. It wasn't rare for there to be a rare treasure beneath the Starpoint mine. For example, the Wasteland gem that the Wasteland tribe was so proud of was dug out from the depths of the Starpoint mine. There's definitely a treasure, but I can't say for sure what kind of treasure it is. Lin Jiegue didn't give a definite answer. Li Zhongtao waved his hand. Who cares what kind of treasure it is? Go and inform Hopper that the Dark Thunder Guards want it. However, Lin Jiegue was somewhat hesitant. Your Excellency, there's something that I don't know if I should say. Enough, hurry up and say it. Li Zhongtao was somewhat impatient. The Huangchuan tribe has just destroyed the Wasteland tribe. It's reasonable to say that the people of the Discipline Commission will hold them accountable. If news of this treasure reaches the Discipline Commission, it won't be our turn. Li Zhongtao slammed the table. You're right. Those people from the Discipline Commission have always been jealous of us. If they really know about the treasure, they won't let it go. How about this? Go and negotiate with Hopper immediately. Tell him that as long as they give the treasure to us, I'll help them block the discipline commission and save them a lot of trouble. I'll personally make a trip to the discipline commission. Your humble servant understands. Lin Jigui hurried to the Starpoint mine as quickly as possible. When he arrived, he saw Hopper personally standing guard here. Lin Jigui was even more convinced after seeing Hopper. He went straight to the point. Hopper, I'll tell you the truth. Lord Li already knows about the phenomenon at the Starpoint mine. If the Huangchuan tribe doesn't want the mine to be seized, hand over the treasure obediently. Hopper was puzzled. What are you talking about, Lord Lin? Why don't I understand? Stop pretending. Lin Jigui sneered. In the Thunderflame dynasty, who can compare to the Dark Thunder Guards in terms of intelligence? Do you think you're foolproof just because you shut some people's mouths? You're underestimating the Dark Thunder Guards too much. Hopper's expression changed. As expected, I can't hide from you. Lin Jigui laughed. Ha ha ha, Hopper, you better know your limits. You won't have a good ending if you make an enemy of the Dark Thunder Guards. Besides, Lord Li said that as long as you're willing to hand over the treasure, we can help you solve the Discipline Commission's problem. The Huangchuan tribe won't lose out at all. Hopper fell silent, but Lin Jigui was very confident. He was sure that Hopper would give in under the carrot and stick. As expected, Hopper said before long, I can agree, but I have a condition. Lin Jigui was delighted, but he didn't show it on his face. On the contrary, he said with a straight face, Hopper, you don't seem to have the right to make conditions. Sigh. Hopper sighed deeply. Then Lord Lin, do you know why I didn't go down despite knowing that there are treasures below? It's because it's dangerous down there, and the Huangchuan tribe alone isn't enough to take the treasure. Chapter 590. Soon after, Hopu took Lin Jigui back to the deepest part of the star mineral vein, where a magnificent formation was slowly rotating. At the front, there was a gate with complicated galaxies carved on it. Hopu pointed to the gate and said, Mr. Lin, to tell you the truth, there should be a mysterious treasure here. Unfortunately, the leaders and I are not strong enough to open the gate, so we can't go in and explore it. The condition I mentioned just now is to invite many masters of the Dark Thunder Guards to break the formation together. And then the Huangchuan tribe will only take 30% of the things inside. What do you think, Mr. Lin? Lin Jigui did not answer Hopu, because his face was full of surprise and greed at this time. I'm rich. However, he did not fully believe Hopu's words. He pointed at the gate, and suddenly the fierce thunder gang chi burst out and instantly hit the gate. However, the gate did not move. Lin Jigui finally believed Hopu's words. A few masters of the gang spirit realm could not open the gate. He was afraid that only masters of the oneness of heaven and men realm could do it in person. Only Li Zhangtao had this strength in the Dark Thunder Guards. He said, I'll report this to Mr. Li. Before we arrive, no one is allowed to get close to this place. After it's done, you will definitely benefit. Mr. Lin, don't worry. Even a fly can't fly in, Hopu assured. Then Lin Jigui rushed back to the Dark Thunder Mansion, at full speed to report. At this time, two figures suddenly appeared beside Hopu. They were Leng Shiqi and Feng Shamo. Hopu immediately said, Mr. Lu is really a genius. Everything is exactly as you expected. Leng Shiqi said coldly, the Dark Thunder Guards of Ningyang County are all insatiable. In order to kill Li Zhangtao, I have planned for many years. This formation will be his grave. Chief Hopu, when Li Zhangtao comes here with his men, you only need to do this. On the other side, among the Dark Thunder Guards of Ningyang County, Li Zhangtao had just returned from the Discipline Commission. At this moment, he was reading a secret report carefully. According to the secret report, when the Baron Chuan tribe annihilated the Chen family of Blazing Sun City, a mysterious man appeared and killed the Chen family's patriarch, Chen Chuling, in 3 moves. Li Zhangtao was a little concerned about this mysterious person. Since this person had made a move in the Chen clan, could he have also participated in the battle to destroy the Water Cloud cult and the Wilderness tribe? Who on earth was this mysterious person? Why would he help the Baron Chuan tribe? More importantly, the time when the Huangchuan tribe suddenly went to destroy the Water Cloud cult overlapped with the time when the Leng Shiqi disappeared. Therefore, Li Zhangtao could not help but have a bizarre idea in his mind. Could the mysterious man be Leng Shiqi? However, according to the intelligence, the spiritual technique used by the mysterious man when he killed Chen Chuling was obviously a star cultivation method, which had nothing to do with the Leng Shiqi. This made Li Zhangtao a little uncertain. Just as he was deep in thought, Lin Jiegui ran in with an excited expression, interrupting his thoughts. Li Zhangtao's expression darkened. He hated being disturbed the most. Lin Jiegui also knew this, but he could not care less. He said happily, "Sir, great news. Don't make a fuss. Have you retrieved the treasure?" "No, there are no treasures under the Star Point mineral vein." Lin Jiegui shook his head at first, but immediately changed the topic. "But there are treasures in there." "What did you say?" Li Zhangtao immediately stood up, looking pleasantly surprised. "I dare not lie to you, sir. It's like this." Then Lin Jiegui told him what happened in the Star Point mineral vein and Hopa's conditions. Li Zhangtao immediately laughed. "Ha ha ha, a secret treasure. From your description, it must be a secret treasure passed down from ancient times. There are countless natural treasures in there. You did well." "Thank you, sir. But should we agree to Hopa's conditions?" "Well, agree first. Now it seems that the secret treasure is not so easy to open, and there may be some dangers inside. Let the people of the Baron Chuan tribe go in with us, and let them take the lead," Li Zhangtao said with a cold smile. "You are so wise, sir." Lin Jiegui flattered him again without saying anything. Li Zhangtao pondered for a moment, and ordered, "Call Li Liang here and gather more people. We will set off now." "Yes." Lin Jiegui agreed quickly, but he felt a little uncomfortable. Li Liang was also one of the 4 great supervisors of Ningyang County, with the cultivation of the middle stage of Gang Spirit Realm. However, it was Lin Jiegui who discovered the secret treasure from the beginning to the end. Why should he share the benefits with Li Liang? But he had no choice. Li Liang's surname was Li, and he was a close relative of Li Zhangtao. The Dark Thunder Guards mobilized people very quickly. In less than half an hour, dozens of Dark Thunder envoys in Spiritual Pulse Realm and 7 supervisors in Spiritual Aperture Realm had gathered at the gate of Dark Thunder Mansion. Li Zhangtao led Lin Jiegui and Li Liang to the front. He waved his hand and said, "Let's go." Soon, masters gathered in front of the Starlight Gate under the Star Mineral Vein. There were several leaders and many elite warriors led by Hop, as well as the Dark Thunder Guards led by Li Zhangtao. But this strength was enough to challenge a first-rate sect. At this time, Li Zhangtao was looking at the Starlight Gate seriously. He clenched his fist, and a long spear appeared in his hand. As soon as this spear appeared, the narrow underground space was immediately shrouded in waves of killing intent and extreme coldness. Hopu focused his eyes and his expression changed. He recognized that this spear was a 7th-order treasure, the 10 Directions Drifting Snow Spear. This spear was made by the god Broken Mountain a few years ago, and it caused a sensation at that time. But unexpectedly, this floating snow spear fell into Li Zhangtao's hands. "Back off!" Li Zhangtao shouted. His body surged with a majestic aura of spirit energy, making the Spiritual Pulse Realm cultivators unable to breathe. Everyone retreated. They knew that Li Zhangtao was going to use all his strength to break the array. Extreme cold aura gathered on the floating snow spear. Li Zhangtao stabbed out, and instantly, a monstrous aura surged. This spear seemed to pierce through the heavens and earth. Endless frost aura exploded in front of this spear. The spear was like a dragon, like a river flowing east, breaking through the Starlight Gate. Boom! With a deafening sound, the entire underground space began to shake violently. Gravel fell as if it would collapse at any time. But everyone's eyes were locked on the gate. Could Li Zhangtao's all-out attack break through the Starlight Gate? When the light and dust dissipated, everyone saw that there was a hole in the middle of the door that was as wide as a person. The Dark Thunder Guards immediately cheered. Lin Jiegui immediately flattered. "Lord Li's divine ability is unparalleled. A mirror ray can be broken with a flip of your hand. I admire you." Li Zhangtao's aura was a little chaotic, but before he could say anything, Hopu led his men and walked over. Chapter 591. Li Zhangtao stopped Hopu with his spirit spear and sneered. What? I tried my best to open the passage, but you want to go in first? Do you deserve it? Hopu's face immediately turned blue and red, as if he was trying hard to suppress the anger in his heart, but he finally stepped aside. Li Zhangtao snorted and led the Dark Thunder Guards into the gap one by one. Hapa, on the other hand, had only brought along the other 3 chiefs of the Barren River tribe. During the battle, the 4 of them had been at the very back, so Li Zhangtao hadn't noticed them. In addition, the 2 masters of the gang spirit realm of the fallen Maple sect were not here. They had returned to their sect. After all, they only agreed to help attack the Wilderness tribe. If they had known that Lung Shiqi was going to deal with the Dark Thunder Guards, they would never have agreed. So Lung Shiqi simply let them go. Besides, he couldn't completely trust the people of the fallen Maple sect. He couldn't make any mistakes in his plan, so he was a little worried about leaving the 2 behind. When they came in, they were all shocked by the scene in front of them, especially the hall bathed in starlight. Looking from a distance, they could feel the treasure inside. Some people squatted on the ground and knocked on the ground, making a dong-dong sound. The floor tiles don't seem to be ordinary. Let's not talk about the high grade, but the purity is extremely rare. Everyone from the Dark Lightning Guards revealed a look of joy. This was indeed a treasure. However, Hopu took a step forward again. This time, all the Dark Thunder Guards glared at him. Even Li Zhangtao had some killing intent. Hopu suddenly cupped his fists and said, "Please calm down. I think it's too quiet here. I'm afraid it will explode, so I want to have a try first." Hearing this, Li Zhangtao laughed. It was good that someone took the initiative to take the risk. He said, "I see. It seems that you have misunderstood. Leader Hopu, please." Hopper then took out an ordinary star-point stone, but there was an inconspicuous red dot on it. He then threw the star-point stone forward, and the stone rolled along the road. The star-point stone rolled all the way to the entrance of the hall. During this time, everyone only heard the sound of the stone rubbing against the ground. Other than that, nothing else happened. Li Zhangtao was secretly delighted. This also meant that the distance from here to the main hall was safe. He shouted, "Let's go." Next, the Dark Lightning Guards swarmed towards the main hall, completely ignoring Hopu and the others. Hopper also showed a displeased look, but Li Zhangtao and the others didn't even look at them. However, they didn't notice that when all the Dark Thunder Guards walked in front of them, Hopper had a cold smile on his face. Li Zhangtao's group was very fast, and due to the difference in cultivation level, there was a gap between the front and the back. The group of Spirit Pulse Realm Dark Lightning envoys were at the back. Just as these Dark Thunder Guards ran to the middle of the road, suddenly, caw-caw sounds rang out continuously, and strange statues appeared one after another. As soon as these statues appeared, they all raised their hands, and suddenly, the power of the stars shot out from their eyes. Li Zhangtao and the others were shocked. Hopu had clearly probed just now, so there shouldn't be any danger here. However, he immediately thought that maybe these statues could only sense living people. In fact, the star-point stone that Hopu threw out just now had a drop of Lung Shiqi's blood essence, so it didn't trigger this restriction. Li Zhangtao also knew that now wasn't the time to think too much, because at this time, several Spirit Pulse Realm Dark Lightning envoys had already died. His long spear shook, and waves of extremely cold spirit gang surged out like ripples. Wherever it went, the power of the stars was all destroyed. Of course, the hundreds of statues didn't only have this ability. At this moment, all the statues shook together, and a strange power spread out. This power didn't seem like spiritual power, but the aura was comparable to a spirit aperture realm cultivator. This time, Li Zhangtao's expression was abnormally ugly. Facing hundreds of statues with the power of the spirit aperture realm, even he could fall here. What exactly was this place, and why was there such a terrifying mechanism? He originally thought that this was only a secret treasure, found under a medium-grade mine. Even if there was some danger, with his strength of unity of heaven and man realm, he could completely deal with it. But now he suddenly felt that he seemed to be a bit careless. A few thoughts flashed through Li Zhangtao's mind, and he quickly looked around, as if looking for a way to close these statues. However, the statues didn't give them time to think. Hundreds of statues directly rushed towards the dark thunder guards closest to them, and in an instant, flesh and blood flew everywhere, dyeing the sky red. As for Hopu and the other 3 leaders, they also went deep into the statues, but if anyone paid attention to them, they would realize that the statues didn't take the initiative to attack Hopu and the others. This was because Hopu and the others were all wearing a jade pendant. There was nothing special about this jade pendant, and it only had a drop of Lung Shiqi's blood essence on it, so they were considered to be on the same side by the statues. And Hopu was using the statues as a cover, slowly approaching Li Zhangtao's side. There were endless screams. Most of the Dark Thunder Guards were only in the spiritual pulse realm, and there was almost no room for resistance in front of the statues. Only the 7 inspectors in the spiritual aperture realm could hold on for a while. However, the 7 of them were now besieged by multiple statues, and their lives were in danger. Lin Jiegue and Li Liang were both masters in the gang spirit realm. The 2 of them could easily kill the statues without any intelligence, but they also knew that this was not a long-term plan. Li Zhangtao looked for a while and couldn't find anything like the eye of the formation, so he had to sweep his long spear. Suddenly, the temperature in this small space plummeted, and even snowflakes and ice crystals fell from the sky. The floating snow spear of 10 directions stabbed repeatedly, and the new moon swept across. Terrifying ice and snow gang raged, and in the blink of an eye, a large number of statues were destroyed, creating a vacuum within 1,000 feet of him. The remaining dozen or so people immediately gathered around him. Li Zhangtao's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. He had painstakingly trained these Dark Thunder Guards. Now, in less than half an incense stick's worth of time, only these few people were left. His heart was bleeding. "Your Excellency Li, let me help you." Hopu smashed several statues in front of him with a heavy punch, shouted loudly, and surrounded him with the other 3 leaders. Li Zhangtao also nodded and said, "Leader Hopu is really wise. Now we are in danger, and only by joining hands can we survive and find the secret treasure." That's. Hopu had already come to Li Zhangtao's side. He smiled kindly, but he didn't finish his sentence. Immediately, he clenched his fists, and dozens of spells with ancient breath lit up all over his body. With a hum, a god of war shadow of more than 100 feet high emerged. Not only him, but the other 3 leaders also did the same. For a moment, 4 phantoms surrounded Li Zhangtao, and 8 mountain-like fists fell on him. At the same time, a shocking illusory wind spiritual gang suddenly appeared, which could cut mountains and rivers. Finally, a strange evil beast flashed in the void, and countless colorful flowers floated down from the sky, shining in all directions, which were magnificent. In the face of this sudden attack, Li Zhangtao was shocked and angry. "Who dares to set me up?" Chapter 592. Eunuch Gao had a low opinion of Li Zhangtao, but no matter what, he was still a great master in the realm of oneness of heaven and men. He was also the inspector who had been in charge of Ningyang County for nearly 10 years. He still had the most basic shrewdness. He instantly saw that someone was deliberately setting up a trap against him. But at this critical moment he had no time to think about it. Facing the sneak attack of 6 masters of Gang's spirit realm, even Li Zhangtao dared not to be careless. Because the 6 people who attacked him were all strong. The leaders of the Barren River tribe, led by Hopu, had grown from countless battles and had the support of ancient secret skills, so their strength was infinite. As for Feng Shamo and Lung Shiqi, there was no need to even mention them. They were definitely the best amongst their peers. Li Zhangtao held the long spear upside down, and the momentum of the spear changed. The spear momentum became soft, and the white light on the spear suddenly rolled back, and a terrible suction suddenly came. The white light condensed into a huge vortex, swallowing everything around it. Whether it was the shadow of the war god, the phantom wind blade, or thousands of sword chi, they were all swallowed up. As more and more energy was swallowed, the white vortex became bigger and bigger, and its color became more complex. Li Zhangtao's face also turned pale. It seemed that although he temporarily resolved the sneak attack of several people, he was also suffering. A touch of anger flashed across Li Zhangtao's face. Immediately, he directly detonated the strange vortex, and the terrible spiritual power burst out, madly spreading with him as the center. Everything touched by this energy, whether it was a statue or a spirit cultivator, was completely destroyed. Retreat. Lung Shiqi moved his feet and instantly retreated hundreds of feet away. Feng Shamo also moved his shadow and quickly left, but the speed of Hopu and the other three was far less fast. Although they retreated in advance, they were still affected by the power of the explosion. Fortunately, the ancient spell on their bodies offset a lot of power, and they were all slightly injured. The most unlucky ones were the Dark Thunder guards around Li Zhangtao. There were more than 10 people left, but now there were only 4 people left. Lin Jiegue and Li Liang were also very depressed. They did not die under the siege of the many statues, but almost died in the hands of their own superior. But at this time, they didn't care about this, especially Lin Jiegue. He also saw that this wasn't a secret treasure. Clearly, someone deliberately set them up to die. Lin Jiegue recalled that from the moment his subordinates received the news, to him personally coming to check it out, and then going back to invite Li Zhangtao, all of this had been planned by someone. What was laughable was that Lin Jie had originally thought that his subordinate's detection ability was extremely strong, which was why he had detected the treasure under the Star Point mineral vein. Now, it seemed that someone had deliberately leaked it to him. The other party had taken advantage of their greedy nature to set up this trap. For the first time, Lin Jiegue resented his own greed. Unfortunately, he would not have the chance to correct it. Li Zhangtao didn't feel good either. He had been an inspector of Ningyang County for 10 years, and was used to the feeling of being high and mighty. No force dared to provoke him, so he could take any benefits he wanted. After a long period of smooth sailing, his vigilance had slowly been worn down. In fact, there were some small flaws in the whole process. If he had maintained a high level of vigilance, he might have found something fishy. Unfortunately, it was useless for him to regret it now. He was staring at Lung Shiqi, because Lung Shiqi had activated the wild evil demon blood beast body. He had 4 arms and a tail behind him. Li Zhangtao recognized his appearance. Lung Shiqi had used the wild evil demon blood beast body in the Dark Thunder Guard headquarters in Shantai County, so the relevant information about him had been collected long ago. After knowing that Lung Shiqi had been sent to Ningyang County to seize power, Li Zhangtao had also specially searched for all the information about Lung Shiqi. Naturally, he knew some of the characteristics of Lung Shiqi's spiritual techniques. He recognized Lung Shiqi, and suddenly realized that after Lung Shiqi disappeared, he had secretly hidden in the Huangchuan tribe. Lung Shiqi had been behind all the big movements of the Wasteland tribe recently. No wonder the Huangchuan tribe, which was originally neither strong nor weak, suddenly became so fierce. They had destroyed 2 third-rate forces and the Wasteland tribe in succession, shocking the entire Ningyang County. Li Zhangtao was also secretly angry. Not long ago, he had also found a flaw, but unfortunately, he was interrupted by Lin Jiegue before he could think about it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to come here so easily. Li Zhangtao was furious. He shouted hatefully, "Lu Xingji, it was you who did this. What are you trying to do?" What am I trying to do? Of course, Lord Li knows. Lung Shiqi sneered. Coupled with his transformed appearance, he looked extremely evil. Then he transmitted his voice to Feng Shamo and Hopu. Continue to retreat and accumulate power. Then, all the surrounding statues rushed toward Li Zhangtao and the others. Although many of these statues had been destroyed, there were still 100 or 200 of them. Li Zhangtao and the others had consumed a lot of spiritual power after the successive battles. Seeing so many statues rushing toward them, their hearts sank. Even Li Zhangtao secretly breathed a sigh of relief. In the beginning, he had used about 20% of his spiritual power to open the Starlight Gate. Later, he had used another 10% to break many statues. The most important thing was that he had resisted the sneak attack of Lung Shiqi and the other 5 masters of Gang Spirit Realm, and used one of his most powerful spiritual skills. At this time, his spiritual power was less than 50%. Li Zhangtao hurriedly swallowed a few elixirs to restore his spiritual power. Holding the floating snow spear in front of him, he looked like a man who could hold back 10,000 enemies. He said in a low voice, "You block the back. Leave the front to me." 100 or 200 statues swarmed forward, but Li Zhangtao could smash a dozen of them with a casual blow. Although Lin Jiegue and the others were busy resisting, at least they could hold on for the time being. At this moment, Leng Shiqi made a move. The 4 arms on his body made a gesture at the same time. In an instant, he divided into 5 phantoms and scattered in the shape of a pentagon. Immediately, 5 formations of different colors emerged, but not on the ground, but in the sky. At the same time, the whole space suddenly became hot and dry. Bursts of scorching air rushed toward them. Flames flashed across, and a complicated formation appeared on the ground. The spiritual power of the 5 Leng Shiqi surged wildly, even causing a small spiritual storm. Then countless streamers fell from the sky. On the ground, 9 thick golden fire pillars rose into the sky, and there was a faint dragon roar in the air. Leng Shiqi had displayed the rotating light formation and the 9 palaces fire formation at the same time. Li Zhangtao's extreme cold gang was greatly suppressed in an instant. He couldn't help but change his expression. However, Leng Shiqi's target was not him, but Lin Jiegue and Li Liang. Chapter 593. In the rotating light formation, thousands of streamers of various colors covered the sky and earth. On the ground, the fire pillars of the golden dragon flame raged, destroying the world. Both the streamers and the fire pillars targeted Lin Jiegue and Li Liang. It was true that Li Zhangtao was the most powerful opponent, but Lin Jiegue and Li Liang were also masters of Gang Spirit Realm. Besides, they had coveted a lot of resources over the years. No one would believe that they didn't have any trump cards. If Leng Shiqi and others besieged Li Zhangtao and ignored these 2 people, accidents might happen. Therefore, they had to get rid of these 2 potential dangers first. Lin Jiegue and Li Liang were also shocked. They didn't expect that Leng Shiqi would attack them first. What was more, they didn't expect that Leng Shiqi would be so powerful. Was this really the power of an early stage of Gang Spirit Realm? This was indeed the first time that Leng Shiqi had used all his strength after breaking through Gang Spirit Realm. After the breakthrough, the power of his wild demon blood beast body had also increased. In addition, his own strength was abnormal. At this time, his state was completely comparable to the late stage of Gang Spirit Realm. In the sky and on the ground, there were colorful streamers and flames. Thunder exploded around Lin Jiegue, and the violent power of thunder and lightning rushed around, trying to resist. However, at this time Feng Shamo also took action. He waved his 7th-level precious weapon, Heaven-Hating Wind Saber. 2 small sabers flew out in a crisscross pattern, which seemed to have no power. But the weird thing was that the 2 saber auras ignored the distance between them and all the streams of light and fire, and instantly appeared in front of Lin Jiegue. Lin Jiegue was shocked. Who was this man? He had a 7th-level precious weapon and such a strange spiritual skill. But he was still resisting Leng Shiqi's attack and couldn't afford to be distracted. He hurriedly took out a tortoiseshell from his ring hand and spat a mouthful of blood on it. Then the tortoiseshell quickly enlarged and formed a huge shield in front of him. Chi-chi, 2 soft sounds rang out, and 2 extremely fine cracks appeared on the shield. Then Lin Jiegue's expression froze. He looked down and saw that his skin and flesh had been torn open, and his internal organs had been shattered. Lin Jiegue opened his mouth, but he didn't say anything. Without the support of his spiritual energy, the surrounding lightning suddenly disappeared. His figure was instantly engulfed by the sky full of flowing light and terrifying dragon flames. Not even his bones remained. At the same time, the 3 leaders led by Hopu had surrounded and killed Li Liang. At this point, Li Zhangtao was the only dark lightning guard left. From the time Leng Shiqi attacked until now, only 3 or 4 breaths of time had passed. It could be said that they had killed the 2 great inspectors of the Dark Thunder Guards so quickly. Normally, they wouldn't be so relaxed. This was due to Lin Jiegue having consumed a large amount of spiritual energy, and it was also due to Li Zhangtao. After all, when he exploded the magical vortex, Lin Jiegue was also injured. Li Zhangtao also saw that Leng Shiqi and the others had split up to kill Lin Jiegue and Li Liang. He also wanted to help, but at this time, all the statues rushed towards him without fear of death. Even if he was at the unity of heaven and man realm, He couldn't rush out of the encirclement of more than 100 statues comparable to the spirit aperture realm. Seeing Lin Jiegue and Li Liang killed, Li Zhangtao was furious. His expression was ferocious, and his eyes became incomparably red, like a hungry beast. He stared at Leng Shiqi with murderous intent and roared, "Lu Xingji, you dared to kill your comrades and set up a trap to harm me. When I get out, I will make you pay a heavy price." Leng Shiqi sneered and said, "Get out? I didn't expect Sir Li to be so naive. Do you think you still have a chance to get out?" "You." Li Zhangtao's body trembled. When he saw the shocking murderous intent in Leng Shiqi's eyes, his heart thumped. Leng Shiqi wanted to kill him. Even though Li Zhangtao thought of it, he still didn't dare to believe it. Who was he? He was the trusted aide of the Dark Thunder Guard's chief steward Li, a direct descendant of the Li clan, the patrol inspector of the Dark Thunder Guard in Ningyang County, and a great expert at the unity of heaven and man realm. Any one of these identities was enough to shake a region, so when he knew that it was Leng Shiqi's trap, he didn't think that Leng Shiqi would kill him. In his mind, Leng Shiqi wanted nothing more than to get rid of all of his wings, destroy his foundation, and force him to hand over the patrol inspector position. But at this moment, Li Zhangtao finally understood. Leng Shiqi wanted to kill him. He dared to kill him. Leng Shiqi waved his hand, and Feng Shamo and the others surrounded Li Zhangtao from all angles. A trace of fear suddenly appeared in Li Zhangtao's heart. Li Zhangtao was a great expert at the unity of heaven and man realm, but his cultivation was forcibly broken through with the help of external objects. His foundation was not as good as that of a spirit cultivator who broke through by himself, so it had been more than 10 years since he reached the unity of heaven and man realm, but he was still at the early stage of the unity of heaven and man realm. If nothing unexpected happened, he was afraid that he would stop here for the rest of his life. Before this, he didn't care. The unity of heaven and man realm was already a strong expert, and he was also in charge of a large number of resources in Ningyang County. Even if he was old, he would have no regrets. But now he regretted it. Who were the enemies in front of him? The 4 leaders of the Barren River tribe were all at the middle and late stage of the Gang Spirit realm, especially Hopu, who was at the peak of the Gang Spirit realm. They had ancient secret skills and experienced countless battles. Even if it was a normal breakthrough of the unity of heaven and man realm, it would not be so easy to kill these 4 people. And Feng Shamo, who had just made a move, was so terrible that Li Zhangtao was not sure that he could block it. And Feng Shamo also had a 7th-level precious weapon. Who was he? Of course the biggest threat was Leng Shiqi. Li Zhangtao had read the information about Leng Shiqi and knew the achievements of Leng Shiqi. When he was at the middle stage of the Spirit Aperture realm, he killed Wei Xiangming, who was at the middle stage of the Gang Spirit realm. When he was at the half-step of the Gang Spirit realm, he killed Elder Wan, who was at the late stage of the Gang Spirit realm of the Sky Crane Gang. Now Leng Shiqi was at the Gang Spirit realm, so how strong was his real strength? More importantly, the reason why the unity of heaven and man realm was far stronger than the Gang Spirit realm was that they could directly mobilize all kinds of spiritual power between heaven and earth. They had already touched a trace of the power of heaven and earth with their human bodies, which was the so-called unity of heaven and man realm. What Li Zhangtao practiced was cold qi, so he could directly extract the ice spiritual power between heaven and earth, which made him have the power of ice and snow with a wave of his hand. But now the whole secret space was almost filled with the golden earth dragon flame. Under the burning of the strange fire of heaven and earth, the ice spiritual power here was almost burned out. Li Zhangtao could not mobilize much ice spiritual power at all, which meant that he did not have much advantage except that his own spiritual power was more powerful. So when he was surrounded by the 6 people of Leng Shiqi, even if his cultivation was far higher than theirs and he had a trump card, he could not help but feel a little scared. He was afraid of death. Leng Shiqi keenly saw through Li Zhangtao's mind and sneered. The inspector of Ningyang County, a master of the unity of heaven and man realm, is afraid? You are really a loser. Leng Shiqi hit the nail on the head, and Li Zhangtao was like a cat whose tail was guessed. He suddenly exploded. Lu Xingji, even if I die today, I will drag you down with me. Only a loser would say such words, but you'd better deal with these things first. Leng Shiqi waved his hand, and the remaining hundreds of statues continued to rush to Li Zhangtao like moths to a flame. Chapter 594. Leng Shiqi also knew that the 6 people on his side were very strong, but he didn't dare to be careless. This was the first time he faced an expert in the Unity of Heaven realm. As long as you weren't in the Unity of Heaven realm, you would never know how terrifying this realm was. Moreover, Li Zhangtao had been in Ningyang County for a long time, so he must have a lot of trump cards. Rushing up rashly would give him an opportunity. Therefore, Leng Shiqi planned to make the best use of the statues to wear down Li Zhangtao's spirit energy. He also knew that Li Zhangtao used external objects to break through, so his spirit energy was definitely not very pure. If Li Zhangtao wanted to deal with these 100 statues, he would have to use a lot of spirit energy. This was a soft knife. Leng Shiqi also didn't plan to rely on the statues. His 4 limbs changed the spirit seals, and the 9 palace fire diagram that hadn't dissipated yet moved over. The surrounding air instantly became extremely explosive, and the rolling heat waves almost squeezed out all the ice spirit energy between heaven and earth, weakening Li Zhangtao's strength. The white light on Li Zhangtao's 10 directions floating snow spear dimmed a bit, and his face became even uglier. "That's a heavenly flame," he exclaimed. Leng Shiqi's information only said that he suspected to have a heavenly flame, but after seeing it with his own eyes, he couldn't help but be amazed. As soon as the heavenly flame appeared, the entire space was filled with fire spirit energy. Not only was Li Zhangtao unable to use his ice spirit energy, but his ice spirit techniques were also greatly reduced. What made Li Zhangtao even more resentful was that Leng Shiqi only controlled the 9 fire pillars to move left and right, but didn't take the initiative to attack. He still used the statues to besiege him. Li Zhangtao knew that if this continued, he would be tortured to death sooner or later, so he might as well fight. Then he quickly took out a white jade box. He opened it, and a finger-length white silkworm was lying inside. As soon as the box was opened, a dense cold air was emitted from the ice silkworm, which could actually resist a portion of the pure gold earth dragon flames. Ho Pu's eyes widened, and he said in surprise, "That's the immortal ice silkworm. A treasure for cultivators who cultivate ice spirit energy. It's comparable to an 8th-tier treasure." He wasn't wrong. This immortal frost ice silkworm was something that Li Zhangtao always carried with him for cultivation. However, at this moment he picked up the ice silkworm and swallowed it. Soon after, a layer of terrifying frost appeared on Li Zhangtao's face. However, his aura became even more berserk. Even the cold chi that was suppressed by the pure gold earth dragon flame was rebounded a little. Leng Shiqi narrowed his eyes. Li Zhangtao was using the immortal chilling ice silkworm as a means to continuously supply him with spiritual energy. This method would definitely harm the immortal chilling ice silkworm. It would also cause the spirit veins in Li Zhangtao's body to be filled with cold energy, ultimately causing them to freeze. This was undoubtedly killing the goose that laid the golden eggs. However, Li Zhangtao didn't care about this at all. He only wanted to kill. Leng Shiqi saw that the method of consuming spiritual power was not working. He moved his hands behind his back, and the 9 pillars of fire suddenly turned into dragons that roamed the sky. 9 dragons streaked across the sky, their might shaking the surroundings. Leng Shiqi's spiritual power surged and locked onto Li Zhangtao. Soon after, the 9 pure gold fire dragons flew down. The entire small space was filled with scorching dragon flames. Since he couldn't continue to exhaust his spiritual power, he could only attack head-on. He wanted to see if his pure gold earth dragon flame could suppress the immortal chilling ice silkworm. Feng Shamo and Ho Pu no longer held back. In the blink of an eye, 4 enormous war gods appeared. However, this time, they didn't fight individually. Instead, they formed a simple formation. Although the formation was simple, it could completely gather the power of the 4 people. Looking up, 8 mountain-like fists smashed down one after another. Feng Shamo didn't move. If one looked closely, they would see that his eyes had turned pitch black. There was no other emotion in them, only one. That was hatred. The 9 dragons roared, and the fist broke the river. Under such a terrifying attack, Li Zhangtao roared madly. 2 streams of blood flowed from the corners of his eyes. It was clear that he was forced into a dead end. Li Zhangtao raised his spear, and a violent spiritual power fluctuation spread out. Even the surrounding space was visibly distorted. The spear pierced out, and the ice river flowed to the east. The ice river reversed and collided with the fire dragon. The two opposing forces, ice and fire, fiercely collided, causing the small space to tremble. When Ho-Pu and the others' fists landed, a demonic dagger appeared in Li Zhangtao's left hand. When the dagger slashed out, there wasn't any blade aura. Instead, there was a blurred light. Ho-Pu and the others instantly fell into a boundless illusion. However, to Leng Shiqi, this illusion technique was nothing at all. His main body made a strange hand seal, and a 9-colored spirit light suddenly erupted. There seemed to be a 9-colored vortex spinning in his eyes. Li Zhangtao's eyes also seemed to reflect a 9-colored light. Li Zhangtao's divine sense suddenly stagnated, and even the spiritual power in his body stopped circulating. Flowing light illusion technique. Fortunately, the dagger in his hand suddenly trembled violently, helping him break free from the illusion. However, in this moment of distraction, his ice river shattered, causing the fire dragon to wreak havoc, and it had already arrived. Li Zhangtao stretched out his hand, and a blurry figure suddenly appeared from the ring on his finger. The figure held a spirit sword, and its appearance was somewhat similar to Li Jueqing's. The illusory figure pointed the sword, and suddenly, the space was destroyed. The flame dragon was torn apart, and the sword broke the fist aura. In fact, the illusory figure was their Li family's ancestor. Any family member who broke through to the unity of heaven and man realm would be qualified to receive this ring, which contained the will of the Li family's ancestor. Although it was just a will, it was comparable to the full force attack of a mid-stage unity of heaven and man realm cultivator. Li Zhangtao finally resolved this wave, but before he could breathe a sigh of relief, Feng Shamo had already slashed out. His heaven-hating extreme wind blade had become incomparably dim. When he slashed out, there was no blade aura or blade light. Only a strange blade intent directly attacked Li Zhangtao's mind. Li Zhangtao had just barely broken free from the control of the flowing light illusion technique, and his mind was still unstable. Feng Shamo's blade intent broke into his mind without any obstruction. However, Li Zhangtao didn't feel any discomfort. He easily repelled Feng Shamo with the tip of his spear. He didn't understand the meaning behind Feng Shamo's actions. If Feng Shamo had used the same blade technique that killed Lin Jiegue, then he would have been seriously injured at the very least. However, he didn't have time to think about it, because the others had already attacked. Especially Leng Shiqi, who condensed a dazzling black and white brilliance on his left and right. The holy radiance and dark demonic power didn't repel each other, but instead merged together. Leng Shiqi raised his arms high, and the black and white streams of light rushed into the sky. They intertwined with each other and condensed into a black and white dragon. The dragon was about 50 to 60 feet long. As soon as it appeared, it soared into the sky. The power of yin and yang destruction on its body directly caused the 5 elements in the space to become chaotic. Yin and yang were reversed, and the spiritual power of heaven and earth was pushed out. Void Swimming Dragon. Chapter 595. Li Zhangtao, Hopper, and the others were shocked to find that they couldn't use Spiritual Highland, and Li Zhangtao was completely unable to communicate with the ice spiritual power between heaven and earth. His pupils suddenly shrank. At that moment, he seemed to see the figure of the Grim Reaper. However, he didn't give up. Instead, he took out several strange-looking things. These were all life-saving trump cards that he had accumulated over the years. The Yin-Yang Dragon attacked directly. Yin and Yang intertwined, and its power was unparalleled. Li Zhangtao patted a doll in his hand. Immediately, the doll continued to grow, and it turned into a huge puppet that was more than 100 feet tall. He tore 2 pieces of spiritual paper in succession. Then, a curtain of water and a mountain peak appeared in front of him. He crushed a scarlet heart that was still beating. As blood filled the air, a demon that seemed to have crawled out of the netherworld was faintly discernible. Li Zhangtao actually had so many trump cards. As the Yin-Yang Dragon roared, the puppet was instantly crushed into powder. Waves of terrifying destructive power stirred up the water curtain, splitting mountains and rivers. In the end, The demon didn't even have the chance to fully reveal its body before it was directly turned into dust by the extreme yang power. However, these trump cards also bought Li Zhangtao some time. He directly burned his essence blood, turned into a ray of bloodlight, and rushed to the entrance. Unfortunately, at that moment, a voice suddenly sounded in his mind. Do you hate? You hate the heavens for being unfair. You hate Lu Xingji for plotting to kill you. You hate Lin Jiegui for being greedy and causing you to be in danger. You hate eunuch Gao for wanting to take away your power. That voice was like a curse that kept reverberating in his mind. And every word it said hit his soul directly. Yes, he hated it. Of course he hated it. He couldn't wait to kill Leng Shiqi, and even eunuch Gao. Li Zhangtao's footsteps suddenly stopped. His face was full of crazy hatred, but his eyes were strangely black. Leng Shiqi knew that this was Feng Shemo's move. He couldn't miss this good opportunity. Holding the demon arrival battle saber, he immediately slashed out a shocking saber light. In an instant, time and space seemed to be stagnant. The entire starlight space suddenly dimmed, as if there were only two colors left between heaven and earth. Everyone's movements seemed to slow down, especially Li Zhangtao. The expression on his face was extremely ferocious. His eyes were motionless, as if they were frozen. But at that moment, there was a crack sound in the space, and Li Zhangtao's body shattered like a mirror. At the same time, a saber light to tear through his mental defense and directly cut off his consciousness. Divine ephemeral flash. Leng Shiqi's gang qi, blood qi, evil qi, devil qi, demon qi, evil qi, and even his killing intent, and will had all been infused into it. When everything returned, everything to Li's Li, S, and Li's his Li, S to his. Leng Shiqi had already lost all his buffs. His face was as pale as paper, and countless fine cracks appeared on his body. Blood seeped out and dyed him red. Maintaining the wild evil demon blood beast body for a long time was already a huge burden. Moreover, this was the first time he had used the Great Void Swimming Dragon and Divine Ephemeral Flash at the same time. All the strength in his body was almost exhausted, and even his spiritual meridians were beginning to shrink. He swallowed a few pills and absorbed a wisp of Li Zhangtao's remnant soul. Only then did his face become a little rosy. At that moment, the demon arrival battle saber in his hand suddenly let out a loud buzzing sound. Strangely, the demon arrival battle saber absorbed all the remaining blood of Li Zhangtao. The demon arrival saber trembled violently in Leng Shiqi's hand. The demon arrival battle saber soon calmed down, but there was a thin line of blood on the saber's body. Feng Shamo was attracted by the movement. Seeing the abnormality of the demon arrival battle saber, he said in surprise, "This saber is quite extraordinary. It has the potential to be promoted to a 7th level precious weapon." He had a 7th level heaven-hating saber, so he had the right to speak. Of course, what surprised him the most was Leng Shiqi's strength. When he was in Shantai Prefecture, Feng Shamo also saw Leng Shiqi activate the wild evil demon blood beast body, and used the Great Void Swimming Dragon to kill Elder Wan. But at that time Leng Shiqi was only a half-step to Gang Spirit Realm. And Feng Shamo also thought that he could kill Elder Wan, so he regarded Leng Shiqi as an equal. But in today's battle he clearly saw that Leng Shiqi's strength had made a qualitative leap. Whether it was the 9 Palaces Fire Formation, the Great Void Swimming Dragon, or Divine Ephemeral Flash, they were all much more powerful than when he was a half-step to Gang Spirit Realm. Feng Shamo had realized that Leng Shiqi's strength seemed to have surpassed his. It could be said that he had witnessed Leng Shiqi's growth from the spirit transformation realm to the present. The speed of Leng Shiqi's progress made him very frightened. Feng Shamo found it a little hard to accept. The feeling of being surpassed by a junior step by step was really uncomfortable. The key was that Feng Shamo was arrogant and proud. In the face of Leng Shiqi's strong rise, he couldn't help but have a strong desire to win. But he didn't want to suppress Leng Shiqi. Instead, he wanted to continue to leave Leng Shiqi behind with his own strength. Hopu and the others stood there in a daze after Li Zhangtao's death, and didn't come to their senses until now. Hopu walked quickly to Li Zhangtao's shriveled body with an incredulous expression on his face. Li Zhangtao, the inspector of Ningyang County and a grandmaster in the oneness of heaven and men realm, died like this? He died at their hands. Ever since Li Zhangtao became the inspector of Ningyang County, He had angered everyone. Forces like the Baron Chuan tribe were the most difficult to deal with, and they had been oppressed by Li Zhongtao over the years. Now that the culprit had died at their hands, Hopu felt like he was dreaming. Leng Shiqi walked to his side and said, "We were able to kill Li Zhongtao this time thanks to Leader Hopu and the other 3 leaders. Don't worry, this matter won't involve the Baron Chuan tribe." Li Zhongtao, the inspector of the Dark Thunder Guards, the 2 inspectors, and many Dark Thunder envoys had died at the Star Point mine. If this matter was exposed, the Baron Chuan tribe would definitely suffer the wrath of the Thunderfire dynasty. However, Leng Shiqi was already prepared. Hopu nodded and said, "I believe in Mr. Lu's ability, but can I know Mr. Lu's true identity now?" In fact, during the battle, Li Zhongtao had called out Leng Shiqi's alias, so his identity was definitely not simple. "Well, Leader Hopu should know. If nothing unexpected happens, you will know my identity in a few days." While they were talking, the space suddenly shook a few times, and the space in the sky was distorted. Leng Shiqi's expression changed and he shouted, "Oh no, the formation is about to collapse. We have to leave here quickly." You're tuning in to the Echoes of the Heart YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.